What What did you like about it? What were your thoughts about it?
The concept.
You like the concept?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me. You said we can't turn the seat down. Like we can't because it's like broke or because Dr. Ned's on tweet. Oh, it's so sick.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's connected to the people in the hall.
It is. I think.
Yeah, it's obvious. They got things. You walk around and see what things you say.
All right. So yeah, I like the concept too. Another thing I liked about it, how I don't know, they made the music video like a movie. Like I don't know, they made like a cowboy scene, then a biker scene. They had a bunch of different scenes that I thought was cool. Those light trails, always a lot of good dancing and neon lights. Then they had this boxing scene. Um, yeah, this is a cool video. I wonder how they shot this. Like, I wonder what the behind the scenes look like. Um, yeah, good effects, good grading. Yeah, but if not, oh well. Uh, what else? Yeah, I like the editing. I like the shots. I did like the spin shots. Yeah, this is a cool video. I liked it. All right, cool. All right, so today I want to talk about two things if we have the time for it. I don't know if we touched on color grading yet, and I don't know if we touched. Well, I know we didn't touch on scripting and script writing, but I don't know if we did color grading yet. But let's um let's talk about script writing and screenplay. Gabrielle, are you familiar with screenplay? Like, do you know what that is? Like, if somebody says, you know, this movie won best screenplay, do you know what that means, or have you ever heard screenplay?
I've heard of screenplay, but I don't know what it means.
Okay. Yeah, so screenplay basically is the story, right? It's the script. Um, they sometimes are used interchangeably. So like the script and the screenplay, that's what it is. It's essentially the story. So if you hear an award for best original screenplay, that means that the movie won an award for best original story. So that story was created fresh, uh, original from scratch. But if you hear best adapted screenplay, that means a screenplay from a book or another source. So, for example, the Harry Potter series, that's an adapted screenplay because they got it from the book, right? Same with, um, it's a bunch, like every book that turned into a movie. So, like Maze Runner, Divergent, uh, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Narnia, uh, basically any movie that came from a book will be considered an adapted screenplay. So in a screenplay that was created from somewhere else. So they give two awards at the at the Oscars, right? So they give best screenplay and the best adapted screenplay. So one is for original script, and the other one is a script that was based off of a book. So if you ever hear that, that's what that is. It's basically just the story or the script. So um, every movie has a script, right? If you've ever, same with theater, right? It's a different setup, but if you ever go to like a play or a musical, they follow a script. But theirs is called, yeah, there's a script as well, but it's a different language. There's some similarities, but it's some differences as well. So I'm gonna show some examples of movie scripts and what they look like and how they're read, but they all follow a similar format. Uh, just because it's a standard in the film industry. So if you give the script, because the thing about a script is that um, it's not just the lines on there that the actors read. So yes, that's an important part, right? The actors have to read lines from a script. That's how they know what to say from the script. But it's also important for the director. It's important for the video editor. It's important for the cinematographer. It's important for the producer. It's important for the sound operator. It's important for uh, pretty much everybody on the set. So that's why there's a standard format for movie scripts because it needs to be universal. So everybody can know the same format, whether you're working on a script in Paris or a script in Japan or a script in LA. They all follow a similar format, a standard format, just so everybody understands it and is everything's on the same page, right? Kind of like music notes, right? All music notes are pretty much just like standard throughout, but it's in film, it's a standard for movie scripts, just so everything is cohesive. And so that's why it's extremely important to know how to write movie scripts and also know how to read movie scripts. And so we'll show some examples and talk a little bit about it. But first, just get this to load up. All right. Okay, so before we get into movie scripting now, I want to share a video. You shared that music video, which was really cool. I want to share a video and then talk about it. This video is called "Low Budget," making a low budget film look cinematic. So this is a three-part series, but I'll show episode 1 this week, episode 2 next week, episode 3 the week after that. But I kind of want to just show how you don't need a crazy budget to make a good film. Now, obviously, the more money you have, the better, but you don't necessarily need millions or even hundreds of thousands given to you from, executives or production studios. A lot of stuff you can do with just a couple thousand, right? And some people who support you. In my experience when making short films, The biggest thing is financing, right? Funding it. Who's paying for it? Who's paying the actors? Who's paying for the cameras? Who's paying for like shooting at the location? Like who's paying for all this? The makeup, the hair, the equipment. Somebody's got to pay for it. And my thing was I was paying for a lot of it out of pocket, which wasn't the smartest move. But starting out, I didn't really like asking people for help. I didn't like begging people for money. I didn't really like people controlling what I wanted to do once they gave me the money. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do it myself and fund my own thing. And yes, you get freedom and creative control from that, but that's a lot of money. Luckily, I was pretty experienced in cinematography and video editing, color grading, and directing that I didn't need to pay those roles. I didn't need to pay a cinematographer or video editor. I did that all myself. So I was basically fulfilling like 4 different roles at once, um, which also isn't the best idea. But if you're on a budget and you don't have that much money, you do what you can to save money. But I also did because I had a very particular look that I wanted to make the film, and I knew that certain people wouldn't be able to achieve it. It is not because of their lack of skill or vision. It's just because I'm had a very particular idea of what I wanted, and only I can really see it. Uh, but now, as I got older and more experienced, I know how to communicate my ideas more and be more collaborative and work with other people to achieve a common goal. But before, I was very stubborn and I didn't really want to do that. Uh, But you actually see now in a lot of independent films, like now, I don't know if you've heard of Honora, that just won like a bunch of awards at the Oscars if you watched it. But if not, that was an independent film and that won Best Picture. And that was a big deal for independent film because some independent films with Best Picture, but when they do, it's a kind of a big deal because they didn't really get money from a production studio. So like if you see movies like Marvel, Star Wars, The Avengers, Harry Potter, like those movies, they get millions of dollars from production studios. So it's expected for them to kind of get nominated for awards. But independent films that aren't getting money from Universal Studios or Disney Pictures or Paramount or Sony, that's not very common because they don't have the budget to make a star film, right? So they don't have that much money to make the best film that they can. So when an independent film does win, that's a big deal because that means that a low budget film beat up all these other films that got millions of dollars, but this independent film only had hundreds of thousands, right? So that's like, wow, how did this movie that only spent 500,000 beat a movie that spent 300 million? So it's like something's not right, right? If they're spending all this money on a film, they should be at least winning something compared to this small independent film, but they didn't. So the reason that independent film the reason that typically the reason that independent films win is for a lot of different reasons, but the screenplay, the story is really good and really well written and it connects really well with the audience. And I would argue that movies that are low budget and independent films, since they don't have that much money, they have to rely on their story. They have to rely on their screenplay because they don't have any other money to invest in anything else. So the best they can do is at least make the story good, right? If I don't have money for effects and cameras and stuff, we at least got to make the story shine. That has to be the acting and the story, right? We have to let those at least shine, right? So with the Nora, uh, the movie that won Best Picture, it was an independent film. It had good story. It had good story, and I don't know if you see it. I highly recommend watching. I liked it a lot. It had best story, and I'll just show it so you know what I'm talking about. This is a Nora. Some like screenshots from it. Um, so this movie won Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actress, I believe Best Editing. Let me see. So Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Picture, Best actress, and I believe best editing. Let me see. Let me just make sure. I know 1-5. Okay. But all right, hold on. I know. Okay, here we go. All right, so yeah, best editing. There we go. All right, so one best picture, best director, best actress, best screenplay, and best original screenplay and best film editing. So this is a big deal for independent film. Like I said, they didn't get millions of dollars from a production company. A lot of the funding that they got from this was, I don't know exactly how they got funding for it, but my guess is that it was um, a mix between crowdfunding, private investors. He probably paid some of it out of his own pocket, and then uh, some other sources of income. But this is a big deal for it to win 5 awards and nominated for 6, and it won 5 out of the 6. Um, so out of the 6, so that's a big deal. So my point was that you don't need millions of dollars. Like, let's see how much money they spent on this movie, and they probably spent like a couple million, to be honest. Um, they spent 6 million, right? So that's not like, that looks like a lot of money, and that is 6 million. But compared to all the other movies it went against, that's very small, right? The movies that they went against, uh, they had, let's just see. All right, so 2024. So Honora won. So they spent 6 million on Honora. The Brutalist, they spent 9.6 million. Complete Unknown, 50 to 70 million. Conclave, 20 million. Dune 2, I know they spent a lot on 190 million, right? 25 million. Uh, it doesn't say how much they spent here. Nickel Boys, 23 million. The Substance, 18 million. And then Wicked, they spent a lot, 150 million. So Honora was the lowest budgeted film, and they won the most. I mean, they won the most awards, including Best Picture, which is the biggest award. So basically, what I'm getting at is that movies like this that are pretty low budget, compared to other movies, you can still be critically acclaimed. You could still win a lot of money. I mean, win a lot of awards. So with this movie, the director, he also edited this film. So you'll see a lot of directors edit their own film. A lot of independent directors edit their own films because they have a idea of how they want the story to go. Because that's why video editing is so important, and you need to understand the script so well, because the video edit, the script must translate into the video editing, right? That's literally what you do as a video editor. You have the script right next to you, and you just follow it. But if the script and the video editing doesn't match, that's a different story. So a lot of the times directors, they either are right there with the editor or they're editing it themselves because they're like, no, I know how this story is supposed to go. I don't want anybody to mess it up. So I'm going to do it. I know how it's supposed to go. So that happens a lot. So a lot of independent directors, they edit their own films because they have a specific vision and they don't want to mess it up. And I understand that as a video editor myself, that makes sense to me. So basically going to go into this video now, but I just want to point out that Anora is a low budget film and it got numerous awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Editing. So I'm gonna just play this, making a low budget film, and then we'll talk about a little bit about it, and then we'll move on to screenplay.
Filmmaking at any level costs money, but it doesn't have to cost millions. At any level, the size of your ideas is almost always going to be bigger than the size of your wallet. Today, there are more creative solutions to the dreaded budget problem than ever. In this series, we'll look at how you can most effectively make a small-scale movie with large-scale ambitions. This is Low Budget Filmmaking, Episode 1, Pre-Production. Step 1 in low-budget filmmaking, subscribe to Studio Binder to get to know the craft like the back of your clapperboard. Tighten your belts. Let's get indie.
Okay, cut. You got to bring passion to it. A message. It's a message.
This is the for the birds.
Low-budget filmmaking has existed long before there was any type of filmmaking. Cinema was born among innovators with little more than a camera and some film. It is only as movies became more popular did budgets balloon. But even as Hollywood productions got more and more expensive, the scrappy and independent filmmaking scene has persisted, acting as a hotbed of experimentation and rising talent. This is truer than ever in today's film industry. Many filmmakers now start their careers not by climbing the ranks of traditional Hollywood systems, but by creating work outside of the system that can then get noticed. Independent filmmaker Jim Cummings explains.
We're assuming that the best screenplay wins, but all it takes is going to a cinema or just getting on Netflix and seeing that good ideas are not the thing that's getting made. Like, it has nothing to do with the quality of the script that these movies are getting made. And it's the way that you can make it work is by going in the middle and saying, okay, nobody's going to help us, but there's an open sore in the market where you can make something for a small budget. I didn't go to school for producing, but I was good on the phone and I just started doing it.
But of course, making a movie is rarely as easy as picking up a camera and hitting record. More often than not, a low-budget film still needs a budget, a crew, and a cast. Let's look at what goes into getting a low-budget movie off the ground before the camera starts rolling, beginning with scripting. Of course, you never want to be hyper-conscious of budget limitations while writing a script, but it is important to be realistic about what can be achieved within your means. Writing a script with an Avatar scope for a Blair Witch Project budget will likely end in frustration or a compromised final product.
Everything will get back tomorrow.
I gotta work. I'm supposed to be at work tomorrow at 9.
I know.
Low-budget scripts tend to have a limited number of characters and locations, making it easier to cast and produce. But there are exceptions to this rule. C.L.I.C.K, for example, has a massive ensemble cast.
Kind of working up a harmonious relationship with them, equilibrium.
Richard Linklater pulled this off by writing about a community he was intimately acquainted with, the outcasts and weirdos of Austin, Texas. This gave him easier access to both cast and locations. Writing to your strengths as a filmmaker is also key. Gareth Edwards' concept for monsters, for example, doesn't seem like it would be feasible on a low budget. But Edwards was a seasoned visual effects artist, so he knew he would be able to pull off the sci-fi elements at a lower cost.
Are you sure it's dead?
Yeah, it's dead. Stay here.
You can also write to your limitations, using them as creative fuel rather than compromises. In We're All Going to the World's Fair, for example, Jane Schönbrunn uses the small cast and number of locations to comment on online isolation and connection.
It's like I can feel myself leaving my body. Like it's making me someone else.
Once your script is written, it's time for the hard part, financing. Getting any amount of money for a movie can be difficult, even if it's just a small amount.
We borrow money and then for years we pay out on the installment plan.
Traditional routes to financing, like studios, are extremely difficult to land, especially for non-commercial ideas or first-time filmmakers. As such, many low-budget productions seek financing from independent investors.
Thank you.
Emma Seligman describes obtaining her budget for Shiva Baby.
None of us had ever made a feature, and we tried all the traditional ways of going to production companies, or I guess traditional in the US, like going to our mentors and our past professors, and everyone said no. So eventually we just begged people for money and asked people if they wanted to start a career in like film investment and just went to everybody we knew. It was the toughest thing from short to feature was just financing.
Hey, I'm really sorry. It's fine.
Obtaining money from private investors, too, is no walk in the park. The hard truth is that putting money into an indie movie, by and large, is not a good financial investment. The chances of return for an investor are low and depend on a myriad of variables. And so, a pitch that revolves around return on investment will likely not convince anyone who is financially savvy.
It's a bad investment, that's all. Bad investment.
Instead, private investment is typically secured through a pitch that revolves around creative vision and potential cultural impact. This way, even if an investor isn't confident they'll make their money back, they can be assured that the project will be something they can be proud to be attached to and will carry cultural cachet for them. Another fundraising method favored by many low-budget filmmakers is crowdfunding. On sites like Seed and Spark, Kickstarter, and Indiegogo, filmmakers can pitch their movies to the public, utilizing trailers, posters, BTS footage, and merchandise for people who decide to invest. Crowdfunded investments can also be treated like other forms of private investment, where crowdfunders can get points in a project and see money back if the movie profits. Jim Cummings explains this approach.
For Thunder Road, we ran a Kickstarter campaign and we raised $34,000, and that was just like giving out T-shirts and posters and stuff to people that wanted to see the short film become a feature. And then we just ran a crowd equity campaign, which is something new to us. I had never seen any films do that. It was essentially what we were doing already. Like we were selling points of our company to different people that wanted to help finance the movies. And so I was like, well, why don't we just open it up to the public instead of 6 film financiers that we know? And we raised $350,000 in the first 20 days.
Typically, this approach requires either social media marketing savvy, where a project's pitch can go viral, or the creators behind the project already have bona fides. In Cummings' case, for example, he was adapting his Sundance-winning short film.
Sorry, I don't know if I can keep going.
Another option for funding is one which is typically advised against, self-financing.
He's not even supposed to be here today.
There have been famous success stories, such as Kevin Smith's Clerks. But by and large, self-financing is extremely risky and puts the financial burden on the filmmaker.
Pack of cigarettes?
But there are still some advocates for this approach, including Marty Duplass.
It wasn't an integrity move. I was like, fine, we'll just go. And what I was lucky enough to do is I had just signed my first writing deal to write something. So we took the money, some of the money we made from that, put it in a baghead, and then we went there, and then, we ended up selling the movie for, about 15 times what we made it for. That's where Jay and I were like, hold on. What we thought was the last ditch solution of we'll finance it ourselves is actually the best. I didn't have to deal with anybody. We might have a model here.
Typically, unless a filmmaker is coming from a place of financial success, self-financing is reserved for what are dubbed no-budget movies, where a budget is not more than a few $1,000s. Anything under $1 million, however, is still considered to be extremely low budget. And so, even with financing case, you'll need to maximize economic efficiency in pre-production, beginning with how you build your crew. Generally, on a low-budget set, no one is there solely for the paycheck, because otherwise they'd be somewhere else. This means that when you're hiring your team, you'll need to prioritize people who are passionate about your project and who have a vested interest in seeing it come out as good as possible. It is the passion typically coming from and created by a group of like-minded people that characterizes successful low-budget projects. John Waters discusses how he assembled the team for his early films.
We went to downtown, right to Baltimore, where there was poor kids, redneck kids that were also rebels from their culture, gay people that were rebels from gay culture. They thought gay society had too much rules. They didn't even like gay society. And beatniks. And all that humor, we were united through marijuana, rage, defiance, and a sense of humor. And it became this little nucleus of this group insanity where we made these movies.
That's it.
This remains true for even established filmmakers on low-budget movies. David Lowery describes his approach to making the ultra-low-budget movie a ghost story.
The rules I had for making this movie was that I only wanted to make it with friends. I wanted to just keep a very close family of friends together to just make this in secret in Texas without a big crew, not a lot of people knowing about it.
So tell me what happens if Beethoven's writing his Ninth Symphony and suddenly he wakes up one day and realizes that God doesn't exist.
A small budget typically means that you will be working with a small crew. So it's important to take stock of exactly who you will need on set before hiring people. In other words, avoid hiring positions simply because they exist on other sets. For Steven Soderbergh on Unsane, a smaller crew was a plus. He notes that we had a really small crew. The camera department was the assistant cameraman, camera packet fit, all of it in a backpack. There's a very tangible effect when you're traveling that light in terms of doing things and moving from this location to that location.
What am I doing in here?
I need to look through your bag.
Why?
Don't worry, you're not being singled out. I looked through everyone's bag. It's procedure.
Many positions in your crew will likely be doing you a favor, particularly the lower level positions. So you may need to schedule around higher paying jobs or be prepared to bring in different people to fill in positions from day to day. David Lynch took this approach with cinematographers on Eraserhead.
Fred started shooting after that. We'd been shooting for 9 months. So there was another cameraman that shot for 9 months. Then Fred came in, but Fred shot for 2.5 years.
Building a crew is only half the battle. For a narrative feature, you'll also need a cast.
It's been quite a long time. A lot of jobs.
Like with hiring crew members, casting for a low-budget film can also require ingenuity. A filmmaker must be able to make a case to an actor that they should take a risk by starring in their movie. After all, if they agree, they will likely not have the amenities available on larger movies, nor will they be paid much.
Dead's dead, baby. Dead's dead.
For this reason, it can be difficult to get a bigger name actor to sign on to a low-budget project. But anything is possible, especially with a personalized pitch that happens to come at the right time. David Lowery explains how he got Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara for A Ghost Story.
It wasn't like reaching out to agents saying, here's an offer for an actor. Will they accept it? This was just me sending them text messages saying, hey, I think I might make this thing. I'd love for you to be a part of it. And they both thankfully were.
But a big name actor isn't the only way to get attention from a casting decision. Filmmakers may cast people who are well known outside of acting. In Red Rocket, for example, Sean Baker cast Simon Rex, who didn't have an extensive acting career, but was well known for his days on MTV.
I like your stuff too, man. You and Snoop are the homies, aren't you?
Yeah, we homies.
All right.
That's all that is.
Hey.
For Halloween, John Carpenter and producer Deborah Hill took yet another approach, casting Jamie Lee Curtis not just because she was right for the role, but also because of her family. Explains Hill. I knew casting Jamie Lee would be great publicity for the film because her mother was in Psycho. But of course, a recognizable name isn't a necessity for the success of a movie. Sometimes an actor is simply perfect for the part. Many low-budget filmmakers will work with non-actors. This allows them to keep the cast price tag low, while potentially increasing the authenticity of the movie.
On her arm and on her hands and everything, it was like hair, like a real dark, almost black hair.
In Primer, for example, Shane Carruth cast many of the bit parts with people who actually worked the job they were portraying. He explains, everyone in the film other than David and myself is either a family member, friend, or the actual person who works at that location. Working with non-actors may even be less of a budgetary decision and more of a creative one. Chloe Zhao's film, The Writer, is loosely based on the story of Brady Jandreau, who is playing the protagonist. Zhao explains the process.
It's a little bit more like how much you want the person that plays the character to immerse in the story and the world. How much freedom you're going to give them to be who they are and to interact with the world you create that's so real to them. And some of my favorite filmmakers work that way. If it happens to be someone who's acted before, great. If not, that's fine too.
Thanks, Ricky. Hey, don't give up.
Above all else, your primary consideration when casting a low-budget movie should be the same as any other budget tier. Is the person right for the role?
So guess what?
What? I don't know.
I'm pregnant.
Low-budget filmmaking isn't easy, but it's far from impossible.
I'm married!
With some creativity and grit, anyone can get a movie off the ground. You just have to start somewhere. And that somewhere may be Studio Binder's pre-production services, which has software for everything from screenwriting to scheduling to storyboarding. On our next episode, we'll look at how to stretch your budget when cameras start rolling during production. Until then, make every penny count.
All right, so that was just a video I like to show because I actually come back to this video a lot because I think it's important to know that you don't need millions of dollars to, make a Oscar-winning film. You can go out, shoot something, have a good idea, get independent investors or crowdfund to get money, hire friends, get non-actors, and create this nice, great production. So, just some quick notes I wanted to mention how
this gave him easier access to both cast and location, and produce, and frustration, or a compromised final product.
Everything will
right to your.
Oh, okay. So the first part I want to talk about writing to your strengths. So, like I mentioned, for me, like since I was a video editor and cinematographer, I wrote to my strengths. I was able to do those roles and I didn't have to find somebody else to do them because I was able to do it. So I made a movie, with my strengths and was able to do it.
Compromise. You can also write to your limitations, using them as creative fuel rather than compromises. In We're All Going to the World's Fair, for example, Jane Schoenbrunn uses the small cast and number of locations to comment on online isolation and connection.
Okay. Another part about that was when I did a film, I knew that one of my limitations was obviously money, but it was people who would want to be in it. So I really only had 2 people be in my film, my little short film I did in high school. And that was because I didn't want to have to, worry about people not showing up, people, calling out, and I get it. A lot of it was like non-paid, so I don't expect people to, be super up and joyous about it. So I decided to have 1 or 2 people in it. That way it could be contained. I could really have the creative, control, and I fit a story around 2 people, and was able to do that. So that was a limitation I had, was not only finance, but a crew and a cast. So I tried to
create something with that limitation. Say, you know what, since I don't have a big cast and crew, let me make a story that doesn't require that. So I did like a story on like this guy, he was deaf. And yeah, so I didn't have to really use a big cast or crew for that. I shot it, edited it, wrote it, directed it, everything. So I was kind of playing to my strengths and embracing those limitations. And again, financing, huge thing, right? Most people aren't going to have a lot of money starting out. A lot of production companies aren't going to give independent filmmakers money because, like they mentioned, that's a bad investment, right? A lot of independent filmmakers don't make that money back. So it's hard to get money from production companies and film studios. But if, you know, your movie is culturally impactful or groundbreaking, they might give you some money because even though they know that it may not be the best investment, they have their name on something that's, you know, countercultural or kind of like moving society in a way. So to them, it's like they have their name on something, you know, pretty revolutionary, even if it doesn't make the money back. But other than getting money from film studios, they said private investors. So getting money, you know, putting your, knowing somebody in the industry or connecting with people who may be able to fund your project if they like it, right? If you show them a pitch, maybe a script or a commercial or a trailer or some snippet of what you want and they see the vision, they may give you money that way. So you may be able to reach out to private investors. Another way is crowdfunding, you know, going on Kickstarter or GoFundMe or any of these like websites and put your film out there. Say, hey, if you give me $100, you get a T-shirt. You know, if you give $100, your name goes in the credits. Or they give them some incentive to be a part of to give money to the movie than just giving you money. You know, let it be known that they get something out of it, right? They may get, you know, a bonus feature or, like I said, their name in the credits or a T-shirt or a toy or something to incentivize them to invest in this film other than the vision, but then you give them something else. So, you know, you put a trailer out there, put something so people know what they want, gonna put money into. So crowdfunding is a good way of doing it. And then the finance, the least recommended, the way okay, how can I put this? So you crowdfunding, independent investors, production studio, and then you have self-financing, which is what I strongly recommend against, because it's just not good to just give all your money away to this. So you want to be able to give money from somewhere else so you're not paying for everything. Now, if you need to pay for a few things, okay, but pay for everything is just not the way to go, because you're not going to get any of that money back unless, you know, you're charging I don't know how you're going to distribute it, but most people are not going to get all that money back. So financing is huge. And I think here they said that they
giving out T-shirts and posters and stuff to people that wanted to see.
Jim Cummings explains this approach.
For Thunder Road, we ran a Kickstarter campaign and we raised 34 grand, and that was just.
They did a Kickstarter campaign. They raised 34 grand, so $34,000.
It's like giving out T-shirts and posters and stuff to people that wanted to see the short film become a feature. And then we just ran a crowd equity campaign, something new to us. I had never seen any films do that. It was essentially what we were doing already. Like we were selling points of our company to different people that wanted to help finance the movies. And so I was like, well, why don't we just open it up to the public instead of 6 film financiers that we know? And we raised 350 grand in the first like 20 days.
And then they got 300 grand in the first 20 days by, you know, more crowdfunding. So that's another way to finance your movie. Okay, now hiring crew, that's important. You know, if you have a low budget film, you kind of want to, it probably means your crew is going to be small. So you might work with friends that you know or people that you know in the industry who may not be work for that much money, or who may help you out just because they believe in the vision and they want to work on a creative project. But honestly, working with a small crew and working with people you know is the best bet. Also, doing everything that you can So you can spend less money on the road. So like again, I didn't have to pay a video editor or color grader or cinematographer because I did all that. So I saved thousands of dollars because I just did it. Was it more work? Yes. Did it save me money? Yes. So, you know, you do what you can, but to save money. So, but you do want a good crew. You want people who know what they're doing. Yes, you want to save money, but you still want to make it good. Like you don't want to just hire a random, like just get a random person off the street and say, "Hey, hold this mic." No, because they might not know how to do it, and it may come out bad. And so, yes, you didn't spend all that money, but now you have a terrible product. So, was it really worth it? So you also want to just be smart about who you bring onto your crew. Do they understand your vision? Are they just there for a little bit of money you're giving them? Like, what is their intent behind it? Do they have expertise? What is their, intent and, behind all of what they're doing? And so, because things aren't going to work out, you may have to extend filming for another hour, or you may have to extend it for another month, or you may have to cut something or put something in or move something or change locations, whatever, or just make any changes. And you want somebody who's versatile, who can move with you, who won't just say like, we got to do this again. Like you want somebody who knows the process and knows that things happen, things change. So you want somebody who's along for the ride. So that's important for a crew, but that's also important for a cast as well, right? I see a lot of people, independent filmmakers, like they get their friends to act in it, which is fine, but can they act? Acting is super important for a movie. So you want actors who know how to act for the most part. They don't have to be like, I mean, if you can get like great actors, that's amazing. But for independent films, they don't expect, A-list actors and actresses. And they even mention in some of these films, they get a lot of non-actors because one, they don't have to pay them as much. And two, that it's less work to get them to be a part of it. But and some directors, and they also mention that it's harder to get those A-list actors in your independent film, right? So if I'm making an independent film and I want to get Will Smith in my movie, that's probably going to be hard because how much am I going to pay him for? One, two, he doesn't even know me. Three, what's in it for him if he's not getting paid that much money to do it? And four, he's probably working on another movie that's making quadruple what I'm paying him. So why would he be in my movie? So you got to think about what's in it for that other actor or actress and what is it worthwhile for them. So it's probably not, you probably won't be able to get that top actor or actress, but you could get somebody who's recognizable, who may not be the top actor, but maybe an actor who does a few other short films, or maybe somebody who was like famous in other realms. Like they had an Uncut Gem, they had basketball players be in their movie, and smaller actors, like right here.
Filmmakers may cast people who are well known outside of acting. In Red Rocket, for example, Sean Baker cast Simon Rex, who didn't have an extensive acting career, but was well known for his days on MTV.
I like your stuff too, man. You and Snoop are the homies.
See, so he wasn't well known. I mean, he wasn't well known in the film industry, but he was known in MTV and a few other things. So he was still a pretty recognizable face. And, they used him, Sean Baker used him in his movie. So, he wasn't a top actor at the time, but he was good enough. And also in Halloween, the strategy, I like this strategy that they hired Jamie Lee Curtis, not only because she was good for the role, but her mom was a scream queen, meaning like actress who's in a lot of scary movies, right? Her mom was in Psycho. So she had a recognizable last name or recognizable bloodline. So people were like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis is, her mother was in Psycho. I want to see what she can do in Halloween. So that was a smart move, So that's a really cool part that I think is important. Like I say, using non-actors. What else? And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to mention about that. So yeah, I thought this was a good video. We'll watch part 2 and part 3 next week. All right. So I'm going to get into screenplay a bit, and then I'll play a video to kind of sum it all up. And then we'll look at some scripts together and talk about it. All right. So screenplay is an entire, let me make sure. Okay. So screenplay is an entirely different beast than a novel, essay, or poem. Instead of a finished work of art, a screenplay is a blueprint for a final product, and yet it still requires artistry. The modern screenplay has strict formatting requirements and conventions. Before you become the next great screenwriter, you need to know the rules of the medium, where they come from, what forms they take, and how they're used. And this ultimate guide will cover the history of screenplays, their elements, and their types. Let's jump in. So we won't talk about the history, but so if you want to make the transition from writing to script writing, you have to know what a script is. Let's define screenplay. So a screenplay is a written work for a film, television show, or other movie media that expresses the movement, actions, and dialogue of characters. Screenplays or scripts are the blueprint for the movie. A screenplay is written in a specific format to distinguish between characters, action lines, and dialogue. The formatting is also used to guide the budget and schedule for its production. So, in a script, proper screenplay format includes scene headings, also known as the slug line, action line, character name, dialogue, parentheticals. We won't talk about the history. Okay. So elements of a screenplay. The elements of a screenplay come together on a page in a specific format. In the following diagram, you'll see the required elements and their basic layout. Proper script formatting is a necessary evil. Movies are budgeted and scheduled directly from the script length, how many scenes are on a single page, and etc. This is why understanding and implementing format is so crucial. Okay. I'll show this. All right, let me stop sharing real quick and I'm gonna share this. All right. All right, so you should be seeing my script, or you should be seeing a sample script right now. Let me know if you don't. But let's break this down. Okay. So I'll go deeper into it, but I just want to show you this really quick. So here's a sample script. So if you've never seen a script before, this is what a typical page of a script looks like for a movie or a TV show. So I'm sure we've all seen a script maybe here or there, right? But we didn't really understand the format and the terms and stuff that comes with it. And it may seem like a lot, but it's actually not that complicated. I mean, maybe it is, but I'm going to try to make it not complicated. So first things first, on your script, you have this thing called, this right here says fade in, but it can say anything. It can say fade in, it can say cut to. These are your transitions, right? So it can say fade in, cut to, open to black, dip to white, cross dissolve, anything like that. It's just a fade in. It's basically letting us know how we should fade in to the movie. So if you watch a movie and then you print out the script of that movie and have the script next to you and watch the movie, it should follow the script to a T, basically. Everything should be the exact same, from the scenes to the transitions to who's speaking. Everything should literally align perfectly to the script and the movie you're watching, right? So the first thing that you'll see on the page of the script is the transition. So this one in particular for this script says fade in, which marks the start of a screenplay. So that means when you watch the beginning of this movie, it's gonna literally fade into the scene, right? So this can say dissolve in. So that means we'll dissolve into the scene, or we'll cut in, meaning we'll cut in the scene, right? So it just lets us know how we're gonna open this scene up. What is the start of the film? So in this case, it's fade in. So that means the first thing we see when we watch this scene, the first thing we watch for the scene, the first thing we see when we watch the scene is that we're going to be fading in, right? It's going to have black and then fade into this. But like I said, it could say anything, right? So next, under that is the scene heading. This is also called the slug line, right? So this is a one-line description that shows the location and time of day of your scene. So if you see EXT, that means exterior. If you see INT, that means interior, right? And then after that, you have the specific location, and then you have the time of day. Is it day? Is it night? Is it later? Is it in the morning? Some way to let us know what time of day. So if we read this together, this is the exterior of a suburban home at night. So that means when we film this scene, the scene is going to be shot outside a suburban home at night. That's what this is telling us, and that's important. We need to know where the location and time of day of the scene is, right? So we're watching a movie. We need to know where and when this scene is being shot, right? And this is not the whole movie. This is just for one scene. And you'll see down here, this is another scene. And so I'll come back to this, but these numbers mean scenes. So anytime you see a number like 1, 2, 3, that's a new scene, right? So right here, this is scene 1. So that means scene 1 is going to be in a suburban home outside at night, right? Exterior means outside, INT means interior, inside. So outside a suburban home at night. We got our inside, we got our location, and we got our time of day, right? So that's what lets us our scene know, right? So as the cinematographer and the video editor, let's say we're the cinematographer, and we say, okay, scene 1, action. Well, where do we film scene 1 at? Well, this is where we film scene 1, outside a suburban home at night. Same for the video editor. Okay, what's the first scene that we need to put in the video editing software? Well, it's this scene because it's scene 1. It's outside of a suburban home at night. So that's called the slug line. That's the scene heading. It's the first thing we see because we need to know the location and time of day of this scene. All right. So that's that. Next, like I said, you have a number. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the number, scene number. That's what scene we're in. So 1 means this is scene 1, 2 means scene 2, 3, scene 3. Very simple. So next, under the scene heading, we have the action. So this is before any dialogue, anybody talking. This is just the action. This lets us know the description of the scene in this description of this actions in this scene. So in this case, the action is we open on a modern suburban home. The front window illuminated by the lights inside. We see the silhouette of a small human figure as it runs back and forth. We push in closer as we slowly see a boy running around the house. Nobody's talking, no dialogue. It's strictly action. This lets us know the start of the scene. What do we see when we first watch this scene? Well, we know, okay, we're going to open up at the suburban home. The front window is illuminated by the lights inside, and we see we see the silhouette of a small human figure as it runs back and forth. We push in closer as we slowly see the boy running around the house. So as a cinematographer and video editor, I need to know what scene is. I need to know what action is being taking place so I know what to get. So if I'm holding the camera and it says we open on a modern suburban home, I know my camera needs to show that modern suburban home with the front window illuminated by the lights inside, and we see the silhouette of a small human, right? So this is our action scene. This is the start before any dialogue happens, right? Cool. And again, we have another transition. This time it says cut to. So this is for the video editor, right? So he or she, when they come into the scene, after we see the boy running around the house, we want to cut to scene 2, right? So we're cutting to, we dissolve to, we Dutch angle to, or we fade into, or we get any of those transitions. That's what that is. So we know, okay, after the action scene, we're gonna cut to this scene 2, right? Boom. So next we have the character, right? So that's very simple. If we see a script and we see a name in all caps, that identifies who's speaking. So in this case, Filbert is the character. And then these are his lines, right? So anytime you see a character's name and then words under their name, that's how we know, okay, that's the character's lines. That's his or her dialogue section that they should be talking about. Sometimes we'll see a parentheses, right? That's called an extension. If we see a parentheses next to their name, that's an extension. So that clarifies if the character is seen or not when they're speaking. So in this case, Filbert, it says VO. That extension means voiceover. So that means we actually, when Filbert is speaking, we actually won't be seeing him. We'll just be hearing his voice because we know it's a voiceover because we see this VO. If there was no VO right there, we would know, okay, Filbert's talking and we see him talking. The audience actually sees him talking. But since it says VO, that stands for voiceover, meaning we just hear his voice. His voice is just being heard. He's still saying these lines, but it's just his voice over the scene. So that's an extension. Sometimes it says voiceover, sometimes it says pre-lap, meaning their voice comes in and then it cuts to their scene with them talking in, so we don't actually hear them at first, but then we cut to them once the scene starts. So you'll hear voiceover, you'll hear pre-lap, and it's one more. Voiceover, pre-lap, and OS, meaning off screen. So meaning they're going to be talking off screen. So for example, if there's a scene where somebody's on the phone, right? Let's say Filbert's on the phone and we see OS. That means off screen. That means we won't actually be seeing him. We'll be just hearing his voice off screen. So that means he's off screen, right? But if there's no OS or VO, that means we see him and he's speaking. So that's the extension. It just lets us know, clarifies where a character is when they can't be seen. Boom. Then again, under that is the dialogue. Very simple. This is just what the character says. So Filbert is going to say, "This is my castle. I am sworn to protect it. Anyone that stands in my way shall bear the wrath of the Almighty." Boom. All right. Now, under here we have the parentheticals. That is context. That provides us some info on how the actor should say the lines. So that's different than an extension. You see, an extension is next to the character's name, but a parenthetical is under the character's name. So if it's under their name, that tells you how the actor or actress should be, how they should be saying their lines. So Becky, we see into the phone. That means Becky is speaking into the phone when she's saying this line, or it can say nervously or sadly or excitedly. That tells us how this character should be saying these lines. So in this case, Becky's saying this. Oh yeah, he's being good. He's just fighting orcs and trolls. She's saying this into the phone, right? Or it can say nervously. That means Becky would be saying these lines nervously. Or it could say, excitedly. That means she could be saying, so that just provides us context. That's it. All right. So next is intercut. All right. So intercut is instructions when cutting to multiple locations. So right here it says intercut phone conversation. So that means that when we shoot this scene, we're gonna go back and forth, right, between Becky into the phone and then Tracy on the phone. So we're gonna go. So when Becky talks, we're gonna get a shot of her. When Tracy talks, we're gonna get her shot when she's talking on the phone. So for like when you're watching a movie and somebody's on the phone, or if you've ever seen the Scream movie, where at the beginning, you know, the lady's talking to the phone, and then the ghost face said, you know, what's your favorite scary movie? Well, that's not a good example because they're not actually showing him. But if there's two characters on the phone, intercut just basically means we want to get a shot of each person when they're talking. So if Becky's on the phone, we're gonna get a shot of her. And then when it's Tracy's turn to speak to Becky, we're gonna get a shot of Tracy, and we're gonna go back and forth through whoever's speaking. So that's an intercut. That lets us know we're gonna switch between different characters and different locations. So boom, that's that. A subheader is used when there's minor changes in location. So kind of like up here in the slug line where it says interior suburban home and kitchen at night. Let's say we're no longer in the kitchen anymore. We're just in the hallway. We're still inside a suburban home at night, but we're just not in the kitchen anymore. We're in the hallway. Sometimes they'll add a subheader to let us know, okay, we switched a minor change in location. We're not changing location altogether, right? We're still in this house. We're still it's still nighttime, but we're just going from the kitchen to the hallway. So sometimes you'll see hallway or maybe basement or attic. That just lets us know we're in a different place in the same location though. So we don't have to write this whole thing again. We're still same thing, just in the hallway instead of the kitchen. Cool. And then next is the shot. Sometimes you'll see a shot marking that indicates the camera angle or movement of the scene. So right here we see Filbert's point of view. That means we're going to get a point of view shot. So meaning we'll see from whatever he's saying. Oh, that's a point of view shot. So you'll see like Dutch angle or something like that. It just lets us know what shot. Lets us know what shot we're going to get from that character. So that's basically the kind of dissecting a script. And there's a little bit more, but this is the overall setup of it. All right. So any questions with that? I'm gonna show a video to tie it all together. But I know it was a lot, but let me know if you have questions, throw it in the chat. And some people may not even, you know, be interested in scripts or anything like that. But I just want to show you because a script is a skeleton of the movie. So if you have a script and you have a movie, they should be identical. When you're reading the script, they should match up identically. So let me play a video to sum it all up. And then we'll look at some other examples.
Who wrote this? Who wrote this?
Who wrote this extraordinary rubbish?
The screenplay is the backbone of narrative filmmaking.
That's some great writing.
Even the smallest nuances of its formatting and contents are crucial to the functioning of the film industry. What are these script elements? Where do they come from? And why are they vitally important? This is Anatomy of a Screenplay. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to Studio Binder and click the bell to get notifications for our videos on all things filmmaking. We'll use Studio Binder screenwriting and script breakdown software to illustrate the elements and industry standard formatting of a screenplay. Let's begin.
That's them, officer. I'm a writer. I'm trying to write in here. They're making noise.
To understand the modern screenplay, one must understand its history.
You know your history. Very good.
And to understand its history, one must understand the history of film production.
And cut.
The first written outlines for movies were called scenarios, because films at the time were barely a few minutes long. These scenarios were short synopses that summed up a film in a few sentences. As filmmaking techniques grew more complex, so did their written documents. Films like 1902's A Trip to the Moon contained multiple cuts and scenes. And by 1903's Great Train Robbery, filmmakers were writing out their stories in a master scene format, which contained a series of descriptions for each scene. Scripts continued to change with the rise of the studio system in the 1920s. This resulted in the continuity script, which allowed executives to track costs and shooting times. Industrious executives applied the assembly line production technique to filmmaking, which required a script that was far more detailed, specifying the required shots and cuts in writing. In 1948, antitrust actions by the US government made the studio system give way to the package unit system, which meant producers would organize film projects into packages, often including script, talent, and other creatives in order to secure funding. In this new context, the script shifted once more, now focused on readability and sellability. It still contained some of the elements of the continuity script, but it focused on telling a story and was less technically specific, giving directors more control over the process. This form is called a master scene script and is the format still used today. So what are the elements of the master scene script?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it next week.
Over time, a very specific format has emerged for screenwriting. Screenplays are written in 12-point Courier font, a standard which was set in the 1980s since it was accessible to both typewriters and computers. The font is also monospaced, meaning every character and space is the same width, making the length of writing more consistent. Margin should be 1.5 inches on the left and 1 inch on the right, top and bottom. Each page, except page 1, should be numbered in the top right corner. The first page of the script is the title page. The title should be written in the center of the page in capital letters, and sometimes underlined. Under the title, write by or written by, and the name of the writer or writers under that. If the script is based on a pre-existing property, write based on under your name and include the name of the property. In the bottom left corner, include your contact information or the information of your representation, like a manager or agent. An optional draft date can be added to the bottom right.
It's gonna be a hot time on the cool town tonight.
You got kind of a dark side, don't you?
No darker than yours, Bruce.
After the title page, a script contains 6 basic elements. The first is the scene heading, otherwise known as the slug line. The slug line contains the most vital information of a scene, location and time. If your location is outside, your heading will begin with an EXT for exterior. If inside, use INT for interior. If your scene is both at once, use INT/EXT. This will be followed by a succinct title for the location. Sometimes you may use a dash and more specific location if your characters are moving through a larger space. Finally, add the time after a dash.
Holy smokes, it's morning!
This can be the time of day Can't tell if it's night or day. Or the time in relation to the previous scene, like continuous or moments later. Keep your scene heading to one line for maximum readability.
Now you're in the sunken place.
You can also use subheadings to shift locations or time without breaking up a scene. These are in uppercase, but lack interior or exterior information. The next element is action. This is anything that's in the scene which isn't dialogue. Action should be written in the present tense, and usually should only describe the visual nature of a scene. Describing a character's thoughts or using flowery language is normally avoided since it can't be depicted on camera.
What are you thinking, Mama?
Certain components of action should be in uppercase, including a character's name the first time they appear. Sound effects, key details and props can also be capitalized, but only when necessary.
Here it is, golden ticket number 3, and it's all mine.
Don't overdo it. And unless you're also the director, don't write any camera shots into the script. The third element is character. When a character has dialogue, their name should appear in uppercase, indented 3.7 inches. This is also called a character cue.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Next comes dialogue. Dialogue should appear 2.5 inches from the left side of the page. Directions placed next to a character's name can indicate voiceover.
I hope to see my friend and shake his hand.
Off screen.
We'll try to tempt Rex now.
Or pre-lap, when a character's dialogue begins before a scene does.
Tonight, a son lost a father. A wife lost a husband. And I lost a friend.
If a character speaks twice or more in a row, or if their dialogue is split up by a page break, continued will be added.
You know what I am? Ugly all day. This ain't happening. Not here. Not now. It's happening.
Parentheticals under a character's name in dialogue are a separate element. These are used to indicate a performance.
Yes. Hurts. Wow.
Or, when in the middle of a longer piece of dialogue, a pause or shift.
That guy bumped into my feet when he walked by. I don't know why, but that kind of creeped me out.
Parentheticals are best used sparingly. Only employ them when totally necessary.
That shirt better not give her nightmares.
Transitions are another screenplay element to use sparingly. A holdout from the continuity script era, transitions are formatted on the right side of a page with a colon. Examples include cut to,
When they're off loud.
dissolve to, and match cut to. Because these decisions are best left to an editor, only use a transition if it is crucial to the story. If you want to indicate a montage, you can write begin montage on the left side of the page, above the scene heading. And when the montage concludes, write end montage in the same place at the end of the scene. If you want to include text on the screen, you can write an uppercase Cairo or title with a colon, and then write the text you want to include. Note that this is not for credit sequences. Don't worry if you're not able to remember all these formatting conventions.
Well, it's hard to remember anything at that age.
Screenwriting programs take care of formatting for the writer. Check out Studio Binder screenwriting software, linked in the description below. But what is the purpose of the script standardization? Let's look at why formatting is important.
How did you get a copy of my screenplay?
If you're a screenwriter early in your career, correct formatting is crucial for one main reason. It signals to a reader that you know what you're doing.
I know exactly what I'm doing now.
Remember, the history of the master scene screenplay is rooted in sellability.
It's very easy to sell a product when people like it so much.
Producers, agents, and production companies comb through countless screenplays. And a script which is incorrectly formatted provides a quick excuse for them to discard it.
I think what's wrong with the script is you.
But there are other reasons why formatting is important.
Yeah, do tell.
The format of a screenplay is designed to represent 1 minute per page, on average. A 120-page script roughly translates to a 2-hour movie. This allows filmmakers to have a good sense of the length of their film before they start rolling.
That's how much time we have.
Standardization also allows for a script to be useful for a variety of departments. For a director, the master scene script gives them just enough information. They can understand the story, but they aren't told how it should be shot or edited.
That girl is not in my film.
It's no longer your film.
Giving them freedom that they often didn't have in the studio system.
What goes up on the screen is the director's vision of what the story is all about.
Once the master scene script is finalized and ready for pre-production,
was born ready, motherfucker.
It becomes what's called a shooting script. This draft of the screenplay is locked, becoming the definitive version for the crew to reference. Once a script is locked, scene numbers are added with 0.75-inch margins on the left and 1-inch margins on the right side of the page. Should future revisions be required, each successive draft is designated by a color in accordance with the WGA standard. The original is white, then blue, pink, yellow, and so on. The revision date and corresponding color are written in the top right corner of each edited page and on the title page. Rather than reprint the entire script for each minor change,
PC load letter? What the f does that mean?
only the pages with edits are printed in these respective colors. You might end up with a script with many different colored pages, which is why they're called rainbow scripts. These revisions are carefully distributed to the entire crew to ensure everyone has the most current version. If scenes are added, they are given letters to avoid affecting the pre-existing scene numbers. In this draft of John August's script for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the added scene before scene 44 is labeled A44. If a scene is removed, its number remains with the word omitted, as you can see in David Koepp's draft of Carlito's Way. The modern screenplay format is also ideal for an assistant director, who often does a script breakdown before a shoot, dividing each page evenly into eighths to estimate both screen and shooting time, and ultimately, the budget.
It's very expensive.
I know. I'll pay.
A script breakdown will also take into account all of the elements required in each scene. An AD often tags these items with different colors, and the screenplay makes these elements easy to identify and keep track of, including characters, costumes, extras, stunts, and sound. Writing important props and set dressing in uppercase helps a production designer do their own breakdown.
87 years ago.
A script's bare-bones writing style means that a production designer knows if something is mentioned on the page, they should include it, while still allowing them enough room to bring their own ideas into fleshing out the set. A screenplay and its elements are designed to be the ultimate blueprint for a film crew, not a finished product in and of itself. That's why standardizing a format and writing conventions is so important. And many great screenwriters use these conventions in unexpected manners. Let's look at some creative applications of the screenplay format.
What's this? It's the script.
Just because the screenwriting rules are strict doesn't mean a screenplay has to be by the numbers.
Landlords today express concern over the latest increase.
In the script for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Charlie Kaufman formats his montages in a unique way, including all the different scenes and images in one paragraph rather than breaking them up. Normally, each scene and location should be clearly delineated for readability and convenience for the assistant director. But here, the lack of separation more effectively delivers the feeling Kaufman wants to evoke. These decaying memories are blurring together, and Joel is quickly cycling through brief moments with Clementine. Aaron Sorkin stuffs his scripts with dialogue, often going pages without a single line of action. In other circumstances, this approach could leave a reader wondering what is happening visually in a sequence. But for Sorkin, omitting action allows him to build the unique rhythm that is key to his dialogue.
You don't think I deserve your attention? I think if your clients want to sit on my shoulders and call themselves tall, they have a right to give it a try. But there's no requirement that I enjoy sitting here listening to people lie. You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount.
Spike Lee uses action lines not just to indicate visuals, but also to establish his distinct voice and point of view.
Always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
For the introduction of the cornermen in Do the Right Thing, Lee elaborates on the type of people the characters are. Every day on this corner, summer or winter, spring or fall, a small group of men meet. They have no steady employment, nothing they can speak of. They do, however, have the gift of gab.
Well, gentlemen, the way I see it, if this hot weather continues, it's going to melt the polar caps and the whole wide world.
Lee bends the rules of sticking to visuals when writing action. But this kind of zoomed-out diatribe indicates what will be so special about Do the Right Thing. It is not just a story, it's a commentary on race relations at large.
Hey, Sal, how come you got the brothers on the wall here?
You want brothers on the wall? Get your own place. You can do what you want to do.
Todd Field infuses his voice into action in a different way. In his screenplay for Tar, his action lines are often long and dense, including minute details about the music, fitting for a film which revolves around a conductor. Although the screenplay is only 94 pages long, Field includes a disclaimer at the beginning, warning prospective funders that the film will be much longer and not reasonable. In her script for Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig also addresses the reader. During this driving scene early in the script, Gerwig explicitly notes in bold to remember this moment of Marion driving through Sacramento. This calls attention to a short scene that otherwise may be skimmed over and gives the ending of the film an even sweeter payoff, connecting Lady Bird with her mom. They are more similar than either may admit.
Hey, Mom, did you feel emotional the first time that you drove in Sacramento?
John Carpenter and Deborah Hill use underlining in their screenplay for Halloween. The underlining emphasizes any important actions and indicates what is going to frighten the audience in a given scene. The strict screenwriting conventions are there for a reason, having been shaped by the production processes of countless films. And following these conventions doesn't have to feel restrictive.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. A screenplay can fit within formatting rules while still being wildly experimental and original.
Highly experimental.
Write and break down your next screenplay with Studio Binder's pre-production software. That's all for now. Remember, it all starts with page 1.
Anyway, you gotta read my script. Did you by chance read my script?
Have you read my script yet?
I know you're busy, but have you had time to read my script?
Are you going to write about this in your screenplay?
I really don't know what this is.
All right. So, so that was a little bit about it. So let me just expand upon the video, and then we will go over some examples, maybe like 2, see, because we're low on time. All right. So a scene heading, also known as a slug line, is where the most practical and immediate information about your scene. When and where. Start with where. First, is your scene inside or outside? If inside, use INT for exterior. Outside, write EXT for exterior. Do you think yours is both, like 2 characters talking, one on the doorstep, one inside? There's something for boundary breaking writers like you, interior, exterior. Then we get more specific. You're inside where? This can be a side of a simple as a church, or you can give some more information about it. Or if you have multiple churches like Catholic Church. Next, add the time of day. This comes after a dash and can refer to the time or day or the relationship to the previous scene. For example, you can write night or morning, or you can say continuous immediately after the last scene or later. There are plenty of other options. So here we see INT means interior, so we know we're inside. Inside where? A semi-basement. Okay, cool. Night or day? During the day. Boom. So that's our slug line. That's our scene heading, also known as the slug line. We know where and when the scene is taking place. Next is the action. This is where all your non-dialogue stuff goes. Scene description, character description, actions, it all goes here. There are a couple rule of thumbs for action that extend beyond its formatting. First, write in third person and always use present tense. So, in this scene right here, here's the action scene. Wario looks across the room at Cass. Cass does not look up from his atlas. That's the action in the scene. No dialogue. We just get the action from the characters. All right, and the punctuation in uppercase is important, right? So some things in action need to be put in uppercase, like the character's name the first time they appear, sound effects, props, and specific shots. All caps draw our attention to these important elements. So character or character cue, the character's name should always be in uppercase before their piece of dialogue. In action, however, character's name can be written normally after their action. So, for example, here we see Margaret Royal. all capital letters, right? So we know that's the character. But up here, cast and royal, it's not capitalized everywhere. It's just regular. So when you have the action, that's fine. But when you have them actually saying dialogue, they need to be capitalized, every single letter. So we know that that's the character speaking. Dialogue occurs under the character's cue in parentheses next to the character's name, can indicate voiceover, off screen, or pre-lap. So again, oops. All right, so the dialogue always under the character's name, boom, and sometimes in parentheses. We see it's not here on this example, but you may see BO for voiceover, OS for off screen, or pre-lap for pre-lap. Cool. 1 second. All right. So then you have parentheticals, right? So if you see parentheses and parentheticals, if you see a word in parentheses, that just gives you context how that character should say those lines. So right here, we see taking out of 10. I don't like that example. But up here, for example, we see Richie, we see pause in parentheses and parentheticals, and it says, haven't been out there since I was 6. We know that he's gonna pause before he says his line, right? Or this yawning in parentheses, we know that this character is gonna yawn when she said this line. So it's just context. It lets us know how this character is gonna say these lines and what action they're gonna take towards it. So transition, lastly, is a transition can be seen as a vestigial organ left over for days of the continuity script. A transition may look something like cut to or smash to or match cut to on the right side. But just as actors don't like too many parentheticals, an editor doesn't love too many transitions. A cut to at the end of a scene may be unnecessary. Of course, we're cutting cut to the next scene. A transition should only be indicated if it's crucial to the story. Maybe a character says, there's absolutely no chance I get on that horse. I'd rather die than ride that horse. And then the next scene, the character's on a horse. You could use a cut to, you could use a cut to punctuate the joke. So yeah, you don't always have to use transitions. So if you put cut to at the beginning of another scene, at the end of the scene, you don't have to, because we know we're gonna cut to the next scene. So parentheses, and use things wisely. Like, don't overdo things. Things are used when they're needed, but don't overdo it. And yeah. So that's that. I want to take a look at one script. Try to break it down. About 8 minutes. Okay, boom. Oh, well, no, it's not a good one. Okay, here we go. So first thing, of course, we see that intro transition. We're gonna fade in. That's the first thing we see. Next, we see our slug line or our scene heading. So we know this is gonna be shot inside. Inside where? A Driscoll Hotel seminar room. Cool. What time of day? During the day. So that's our slug line, our scene heading. We know where and when this scene is gonna be taking place. Our action line right here. Joe and April bust through the doors into a clean, well-lit seminar. Boom, we got our action scene. We know what our first shot should be showing to introduce this scene, right? Next, we have our two characters. They said Joe and April. So we know Joe and April are our two characters. Boom. Their lines are always going to be under their, notice their names are capitalized. So we know that their dialogue is going to be under it, right? So here's what the character is going to be saying. Are we on time? Are we in time? Then April says, how could they start without us? We're the main attraction. These are their lines. Cool. Then we see another action right here. Joe catches his breath as he leans against the podium at the front of the room. And we get Joe talking again, but then we have our parentheticals. When Joe says we are, he's looking about the room when he says it. So that lets us know he's going to be looking around the room when Joe says these lines. That gives us context. That tells us how he's going to say these lines. All right. And if we scroll down, we see that this is scene 2, right? And then see if we see anything else. Fade out. Let us know to fade out. And yeah, I mean, this is all after you do a couple of them, it starts to get pretty easy and make sense. But I just kind of wanted to show a little bit about that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. We'll keep talking about scripts more and more we go because I think they're interesting. And I kind of want to watch a movie and have a script next to us so we can see how they're identical how they're identical with each other. And yeah, so there's no questions. I will go ahead and end it off for today. Yeah, thanks for coming in. Talking about scripts today, and hopefully you learned something about it. If there's any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. But yeah, till then, Gabrielle, have a good week.
Good evening, Gabrielle. Are you with us today? Hello. Can you hear me, Christian? Let me make sure. Let's see. Okay. All right. All right. As we get started, let me pull up my information for today. Perfect. Thank you for joining me today. Um, Last week we had a very important conversation about some updates in the esports world, and most recently I received a newsletter. Let's go. That tackled some recent updates related to current lawsuits and the impact that they are having or may have long term on esports as a whole and how we operate and do business. I'm going to share that newsletter. In a second. And we can take a look at it and go over what this information means and really delve into how cheating in esports will have a negative impact on you as an individual, the game as a whole, and the impact that it has on the industry. Frankly, Publications sends out, Hackney Publications sends out an Esports and the Law newsletter every season, and the most recent newsletter discussed Epic Games and how they sued a player for cheating in Fortnite. Let me share my screen and go. Okay. And how this particular individual was banned. First, I'm going to show the MSNBC little clip of the incident, and then we can talk about it in more details. There we go.
Seemingly out of nowhere, Fortnite is now officially unbanned all cheaters from their game. A new ruling which they are calling a second chance offering, which pretty much means if you've been banned for over a year or around a year, you may now be unbanned and can play matchmaking again. This also has a lot of people looking back on some of the more infamous and notorious cases of Fortnite bans, one of which is Jarvis, who may now also be unbanned over 5 years after the point where he made a YouTube video where he used aimbot in Fortnite, which led to Fortnite then banning him for life. And so now Epic Games and Fortnite have announced this second chance offering, which works in a few different ways. So at first, people are thinking, oh, they just unbanned every cheater ever. That's a bad thing. Although there are some stipulations here which make a lot more sense when it comes to competing. In the esports side, if you ever have cheated, I don't believe you can actually compete in tournaments, although you can play matchmaking. But still, some people, and maybe rightfully so, are upset about this. As they say, offering a second chance while maintaining the game integrity is our top priority. We also believe in allowing second chances for players who made a bad decision and have learned from it. Starting in April, we'll be moving to a 1-year matchmaking ban for first-time cheating offenses, allowing former cheaters to learn from their mistakes while still punishing and deterring cheating. A second offense will result in a lifetime ban. This means for the duration of their first ban, players will be able to log in and text, voice chat, and other players, but will not be able to matchmake into Epic.
Good food at good prices. That's the good life.
Or creator-made experiences or spectate other players. As a part of rolling out
one sheet of bounty versus one sheet of the ordinary brand. One sheet of bounty is
this policy, existing lifetime cheating bans that have been in effect for more than a year will be lifted. And thus why people think that Jarvis will be unbanned and some other people will now be banned. You can't compete. I don't believe you can. But yeah, that was over 5 years. That's how fast time has gone by the way. The Jarvis permanent Fortnite ban for cheating was over 5 years ago. How crazy is that? As they say, players who have used cheats, they get a 1-year matchmaking ban for the first time offense and a lifetime ban for the second. Players who have used cheats and partake in tournaments, they get a 1-year matchmaking ban, but an immediate lifetime ban from tournaments and a potential loss to past tournament winnings. A second offense of using cheats will result in a lifetime ban. And then any players who have broken other rules or have ever sold cheats, they get a lifetime ban no matter what. This rule does not impact them. They will stay banned. So, you know, like all those 15-year-old kids that Epic Games has been suing, they're probably not going to play the game anytime soon. Those are probably going to be upheld lifetime bans. Someone like Jarvis, though, even responded to this, even someone like Ali jumping in, because of the second chance rule, it does seem that starting in April, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a thing, Jarvis will be back. And if you guys remember his now also infamous apology where he cried, he was put all over. I mean, this was national news, if not international news. Like there were many websites who covered him crying, which is crazy when you think back to how big Fortnite was at that time and how big his ban was at that time back in November of 2019. How wrong does that feel to hear?
I'm getting banned. Oh, I'm getting banned. Lock onto someone else.
What are you doing right now, bro? What are you doing, Jarvis?
Oh! Oh my God!
And be a part of the Fortnite community. Just like the amount of obviously this is going to prevent me from going to any other events or even exploring other opportunities, and especially meeting you guys at these tournaments. It's so crazy. I love this game so much. I'm still going to love this game so hard. Oh, I'm still going to love this game no matter what happens. Like, I just wish I could have known how badly I was messing up. Because I would never have ever thought of even making those kind of videos if I knew that this could have actually happened. I know now how big of a mistake this was. And like,
So yes, he will be unbanned, and so will cheaters. They can now partake in matchmaking. I don't believe they can actually compete in tournaments, so I guess it's a fine ruling. But certainly there were some people saying, hey, if you cheat once, you should never be allowed to cheat again. There shouldn't be like a 1-year punishment where you get to cheat in a video game and then come back, which I guess that I have mixed feelings on. Like, I totally understand where people are coming from. I just don't know what the motivation here is. I'm sure that Fortnite is kind of a bit unique with the peak they reached. I'm sure they've had insane amounts of cheaters that will now be maybe coming back to the game to hopefully learn their lesson and not cheat again. But it was a crazy ruling. What do you guys think about this? Fortnite have now officially unbanned all cheaters who have served at least a year, and they've now given out some new punishments for those first-time offenders, getting a year ban, and then a second offense leads to a lifetime ban. What do you guys think about this? Are you a fan or are you not? Till next time, though, take care of yourselves. Enjoy your weekend. All right, we'll see you back here bright and early Monday morning. Bye-bye.
So this is very interesting news and a very interesting and recent updates because Jarvis, let me pull up, and we can go over the lawsuit that led, well, that makes this currently interesting. And so let me share my screen. Oh, that's not what I want to share. So, as the video stated, here we go. Epic Games sued a player for cheating in Fortnite, and that player's last name was Jarvis. What happened was the players, what we've seen in the online gaming community is people cheating and evading the consequences that goes back decades. And in order to prevent that level of cheating, to make sure the game is fair and consistent, to make sure ensure tournaments are consistent, and to make sure that those players who are winning tournaments are not doing so by using these types of tactics. Gaming developers have been trying to develop software to detect the cheating software. And as we know, and as we've talked about and discussed in this class many of times, we know technology and the advancements of technology skyrocket. And so it's moving very quickly and very fast. And just as quickly as we're looking for ways to minimize cheating programs or software developed to help players cheat, we're also just as quickly trying to create software that will detect cheating programs. And that cheat detection software is important because, again, we want to maintain the integrity of the video game. And so in this particular case, let's talk about what we found. We'll scroll on down to page 9. Actually, that particular video was about Jarvis, but more recently, or in 2024, a gamer called Sebastian Arajo was caught repeatedly cheating in Fortnite tournaments, and he was also banned. So actually, Fortnite or Epic Games sued this particular gamer on December 16th, 2024. And so after learning about this new ban, we'll see whether or not, or the ban rules, the update in the ban rules, we'll see what impact it has on Araju. So, or Sebastian. So ultimately what happened in this particular situation is Sebastian had a long history of cheating in Fortnite, and specifically in prize money tournaments. So that's important because we know when you're cheating in these tournaments, you are taking money out of someone else's pocket. You're winning these pots, tournament pots, and you haven't earned that because you're doing so using methods that are helping you and advancing your skill set and manipulating your skill set in different ways where other players don't have that benefit. So according to the lawsuit, there were, I believe, different there were 4 claims filed against Sebastian. And so those claims were 1, circumventing Epic's technological measures in violation of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, reaching Epic's end-user license agreement, which is a contractual obligation for Fortnite, along with tournament agreements, again, contractual obligations, infringing on Epic's copyrights in Fortnite, and committing fraud. The reason why these 4 charges, Epic Games brought these 4 charges against Sebastian, were because, according to Epic Games, Sebastian used extrasensory perception and aimbots, extrasensory in order to cheat. So extrasensory perception, otherwise known as ESP, is a hack that allows players to know the location of other players in the game and to also see other players through walls. Aimbot is a cheat that, when used in connection with ESP, will control a player's keyboard and mouse inputs to automatically aim at other players with perfect accuracy. Of course, this is problematic because not only do we now have the ability to see players through walls or ensure visibility, and now we have a separate cheat mechanism that is ensuring that our aim is pretty much spot on and accurate, right? Which, of course, provides a benefit for us when using when using Fortnite. Both of these particular programs have been around for a really long time. This particular case is a little more, it's significant, but also a little more nuanced, because although Sebastian had been using old technology, quote unquote, the way he was using it, he had gone through great lengths to ensure or avoid detection of these cheat codes. So Fortnite, like all other games, many other games, have anti-cheat software included in the game. And in order to download and play Fortnite, a player must also download this anti-cheat software. If and when this software detects cheating on a player's computer, the player is no longer able to launch Fortnite and might ultimately be banned from playing the game. So, as we stated, Epic will ban players based on their hardware ID, and the computer in question will permanently be banned from launching and using Epic, which is pretty severe. And it's an important ban, obviously, because we know the seriousness of it. At this point, this is a lifetime ban for the particular computer. And although we spoke about Epic Games being more lax, potentially being more lax in their bans, this is what they were arguing in December of 2024. So Successfully, ID bans have been historically successful because most cheats require the cheat software to be loaded on the same computer running Fortnite in order to read the game memory during play. This is why it's been developers have been successful in detecting cheats, cheat codes, and cheat software used to cheat in these games because they historically had to be attached to the same computer that was running the program. Here, though, we see how Sebastian was able to get around the hardware ID ban by using a direct memory access device. They call that a DMA, along with the cheat program installed in his computer. The DMA cheats allows the use of two computers to operate. The first computer will run Fortnite, and the second computer would run the cheat software. And for the cheat software to operate is accessed with computer memory association with Fortnite, and through the second device will transmit it to a second computer running the cheat software. This is how he was able to avoid detection in the first place. As a backup plan, though, Epic alleged that Sebastian also used hardware ID spoofer, which alerted the serial number on the hardware running Fortnite in the DMA device. So in June 6, 2024, Epic detected Sebastian using cheat codes in Fortnite. Within 2 weeks, Sebastian had created 2 new accounts with fake names and was playing Fortnite in tournaments. Over the following 5 months from that date, in June, Sebastian competed in over 18 tournaments and won approximately $3,500. Now, Sebastian allegedly cheated in every single tournament, but despite his efforts to avoid the detection, Epic received numerous player reports about Sebastian's play, reviewed the game footage, and confirmed that Sebastian was indeed still using cheat codes during tournament play. This is when Epic took it upon itself to file a lawsuit against Sebastian Arujo. That lawsuit stated that after discovering that Sebastian had cheated in at least 18 tournaments in 5 months, created at least 4 fake accounts in the process, Sebastian had also made the following violations, the violations that we spoke about earlier, right? By circumventing Epic's technological measures in violation of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, breaching Epic's end-user license agreement for Fortnite, along with tournament agreements and contractual obligations, infringing on Epic's copyrights in Fortnite, and committing fraud. And we'll go into more details about each claim. So as it relates to the complaint, the allegation regarding the end user licensing agreement, that claim seemed to be kind of a breach of contract, very straightforward to the point. In tournaments and when using Fortnite and signing on to those end user license agreements, you are the player is agreeing to not use any types of cheating devices or programs or cheating methods to gain a competitive advantage. So very clear cut and clean. There to use this game and to play this game, you are agreeing that you will not engage in any type of cheating. To be in one of these tournaments, to join one of these tournaments, you are agreeing contractually that you will not cheat. Clearly, in this case, we find, or we at least believe, that Sebastian was cheating. Now, Epic went a little further than that or a lot further than that, and also filed a copyright claim. Now, Epic's copyright claim is a little more interesting and may be used in the future for developers when trying to protect their video games and avoid cheating or address or hold people accountable for cheating. So for the copyright infringement, Epic is alleging that in order to use these cheat games or cheat software, in order for it to function, um, the program must contain copied portions of Fortnite's copyrighted software code. So it's in order for it to work properly, the user has to provide the software a certain aspect of the video game's copyrighted software code. This is where we see copyright infringement. Whenever a cheat code is run on the on the program for Fortnite, must also run. And so what Epic is alleging, which is very unique and interesting, that by running this cheat software multiple times, that Sebastian is using Fortnite's software codes in order to run the cheat software, and it's a copyright infringement. It's a violation of their copyrights. It's a willful violation of the copyrights, and it's willful because it's intentional that Sebastian is making these copies. As it relates to the circumvention claim against Title 17, Section 1201 of the U.S. Code, that particular code provided that no person shall circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under copyright. Long story short, Epic is claiming that its cheat detection software and hardware ID bands are required components that a player must use and comply with in order to access Fortnite. Kind of similar to the infringement claim. Here, it's alleged that Sebastian violated this statute through the use of the cheat software, the DMS devices, and hardware spoofing, all of which are used to circumvent the measures Epic put in place to protect its copyright. So, and we know that to be the case because in order for these products to work and run, you would have to run it on a separate computer, take bits and pieces of that code, run it on a separate computer, and almost manipulate the system into believing this is Fortnite, which is infringing on its copyright. It's an individual owner who does not own Fortnite presenting to this to this software that in fact they do have access and they're using that Fortnite. The last claim that Epic made against Sebastian was that Sebastian was committing fraud, right? Clear cut, straight to the point. And the fraud allegations are based on Sebastian's making multiple fake accounts, especially after numerous bans, and agreeing to Epic's end user license agreement, which Epic is claiming that Sebastian never ever intended to uphold in the first place. Instead, Sebastian misrepresented that he would not disable or circumvent any of Fortnite's security measures and otherwise use any unauthorized software to gain an unfair advantage. When we know that Sebastian's use of this software is specifically to do the opposite, right? We know specifically there to ensure a ban. To ensure a unfair advantage on an end user, or in this particular scenario on Sebastian, playing this video game to a point where Sebastian himself will benefit, right? And so setting yourselves out that way, the company alleged that Sebastian was engaging in fraudulent activities that way. Mm-hmm. Um, on top of that, these misrepresentations ensure that you even signing an end user agreement or contractual obligation for um, a contractual obligation for a tournament. When you're doing that, it's a misrepresentation because we know that, or at least the Epic is arguing that Sebastian had no intent not to cheat. He knew that he would um, use cheat programs to gain a competitive advantage and stated whatever he needed to state in order to win the thousands of dollars of prize money at stake and not be held accountable. So misrepresentations such like these, which would allow Sebastian to play in publicized tournaments after being banned, had a negative impact on Epic. It damaged its reputation and goodwill, damaged which which is pretty clean cut as well. So it's important that we know and or learn that Epic Games is kind of taking these harsh approaches to video gaming, even though we teach on different times. I think it's very extremely important for our leaders. Yeah, it's extremely important to get a hold of cheating in esports to ensure for fairness across the board, right? We want other players to join the tournaments and be able to increase their skills in order to compete and not have this influx of people cheating and not be able to control the market that way. Plus, we know when more and more people are cheating in the video games, it makes the game less attractive to our individuals, to our competitors or customers who are not cheating, to those gamers and those players who just truly love the game but are not cheating. They also want their fair shake at winning those earnings. And we can't do that if we know that the integrity of the video game, we're losing the integrity of the video game. It's as an overall, Fortnite might be impacted, but sports as a whole, esports as a whole, becomes diminished when we see an influx of video gamers cheating in this way. And the level of sophistication by which they have been cheating should not go, they've been cheating, should not go overlooked. Again, it has a negative impact on either our viewership, our sponsorship, or our players, because we have people who are less likely to view, to sponsor, to play, and or to support any of our fellow gamers when we know there's a ton of cheating involved. In this case, is no different. Instead of Sebastian using the necessary time and energy and space that Sebastian had available to him in order to ensure he was doing better in Fortnite, he just really wanted to have some instant gratification. And that is not why we are here. The article goes on to state how Sebastian's actions cost him thousands of dollars. And there's an argument regarding the time and the effort that it took to learn the cheat software. Would Sebastian been able to learn the program well enough to win in these tournaments anyway if Sebastian didn't spend most of his time trying to learn cheat codes and work and learn cheat software? And that's a great point too. Do the work that is important to you and that's in front of you. Always try to block out the noise, right? Um, Yeah, when all of this is considered, we know that Arujo or Sebastian won about $3,500, but we surmise that the take-home rate of pay was nowhere nearly as much because the amount of dollars it likely cost someone in order to leave or in order to cheat a game, the amount of money, making sure you have two high performing computers, computer devices, purchasing the software, three different types of software, um, and then taking your time to learn how to uh, taking your time learning even how to run and manage and coordinate the device, the cheat program, uh, all of the above takes time, energy, effort, and money. It costs money. And attorneys for Epic don't even believe that Arujo made his money back. Um, don't even believe that he broke even in the $3,500 that he won at gaming tournaments using these cheating mechanisms, these cheat codes. Um, so, in conclusion, I'll kind of wrap up with saying that um, lawsuits like this seem like they are likely to be, just the beginning when we're trying to crack down unprofessional behavior, when we're really trying to hone in and crack down on cheating behavior and behavior that ruins the integrity of the role. We just really do not want to know that our hard work is in vain because we know someone else will be able to be able to cheat and receive the earnings, right? So may have a better outcomes than we do. Um, Also, with esports continuing to gain popularity, corresponding increase in tournaments, prize pools, and other common interests among the balance of the students. Um, we don't want to put someone in the I don't want to say put them in the box, but we don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable, and then with esports continuing to gain popularity, and increase in tournament prize pools, it's an increased scrutiny, right? And so when we have an increased amount of cheating, we have an increased level of scrutiny. We want to make sure people who are putting their money into these prize pools, who are purchasing registrations or sponsorships, their money is going toward games that have the integrity necessary to ensure fair and balanced competition. That's a demand amongst not just the players, but the sponsorships, the organizations as a whole. They all want to see this level of transparency and consistency and fairness and balance in the competitions to ensure people are excited to continue to come back. We know that the pot is kind of, high. I feel like these pots can be very significant, or they could just be a little bit. We saw Sebastian attended 18 pots and only, um, and obviously it benefited him personally, but we don't know what his goals were, what his goals ultimately still are. So we want to keep that in mind. And then you have it from a user standpoint and how a lot of organizations that are putting together gaming events are unwilling to risk, you know, bringing people into this organization if they have uh, a different perspective, if they have a different perspective. So long story short, we want to make sure that we're being fair and consistent across the board. We're not encouraging anyone to cheat in gaming. We also know how much time, effort, and money that costs. So, as an individual, you might have to reconcile that and see if it's even worth it for you. But in the meantime, we are going to make sure we have uh, anti-cheat codes and other structures in place to ensure that long term our these games continue to operate with integrity and we don't lose any more staff or any more not staff, and we don't lose any more tournaments, any more individuals interested in applying for tournaments, because that tournament money is also money that is going right back to the computer or to the prize pool. I apologize, to the pool. Are there any questions for me? I know that was a lot of information. I'm here. Gabrielle, I'm not sure if you're still with us, but thank you for joining us today. It's about 6:45. I'll let you take a brief break and then Aramis will be right on.
Gabrielle, we're just gonna give a couple more minutes before we start class. And then we start class. Start class in a few more minutes. We'll give it to 6:58. And we'll go ahead and start class. All right, class, so let's get started. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to IT Fundamentals. I know you probably expecting us to have our last music production class, but because we don't have the people in the class right now, no Gabriel's not in the physical classroom, and Keenan couldn't make it today. We're going to push back playing our last production and pretty much final music production class back soon. But so for now, today, if until the end of the cohort, we're going to start IT fundamentals. So What is IT fundamentals, you may ask? Well, I have a PowerPoint right here that I'm going to share. Give me 1 second as I do that. All right, so hold on, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second as I want the screen to mirror. Give me 1 second. Let's try it again. There we go. All right. So welcome to IT Fundamentals. I am your instructor, Aramis. And today's lecture will be about IT terminology and some basic information about what this class is and what we're going to be doing in this class. So what is IT fundamentals, right? So IT fundamentals is pretty much the start of your IT career. It's to help you learn the basics of the IT field, to help you get, started on your pathway into IT, to learn some of the terminology, and to also learn some troubleshooting of the tips and tricks of IT, right? So in this class, pretty much what we're doing is we're laying the foundation of IT funding, if you're an IT career, right? If you choose to go into the IT field, which I hope you do, right? Because IT right now is the future. I push for this class to be taught in this cohort and into future cohorts because I believe that this class will give you the employability skills to enter the IT field or to just give you a leg up on a lot of people that want to get into IT. So if you're interested in IT, fundamental IT help desk, or not even just help desk, it's security, if it's networking, you want to be a network engineer, you want to be a security engineer, this class right here will get you started on your path to IT. Where you go forward will be up to you. For example, um, I have been in the IT field for the past 15, 20 years. I really got into IT when I was a kid, around like 7, 8 years old. I was fixing VCRs and radios when I was younger. And then from there, that curiosity led me to fix my video game consoles, my Super Nintendo, PlayStations, PS2s. Took a bunch of classes when I was young. Um, like basic IT classes, like how to work this, how to work that, how to understand capacitors and how to understand chips and soldering. From there, I went to school. So I went to Moraine Valley Community College and Tulsa Community College when I stayed in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to Tulsa Community College and I went to Moraine Valley Community College. Moraine Valley is one of the best community schools. Well, it is the best community college in the state of Illinois, but it's also one of the best colleges for entering the IT field and getting your degree. So if you wanted to know a recommendation to, if you should go to school or not, we're going to get to that. But Moraine Valley is tippy top. It's belong with a lot of the IT school colleges, or schools that teach IT higher in the field. Moraine Valley has community colleges right there. But from there, I went to Moraine Valley. I took a bunch of more classes, and I have my CompTIA A plus. I'm doing my certification right now, campaign. But I have my CompTIA A plus certification, and I'm going to go for my CompTIA Security Plus cert, and hopefully my network cert. Right now, I am in school for learning how to do sequels and learning networking some more. I'm just brushing up on a few things that I've, kind of forgot about in the past. So I want to pass this class because when that class pass the test, because these tests are very expensive, but we're going to get there. But that from there, my job experience, I worked in train yards doing IT. I worked in hospital. I worked at Russell Community Hospital while I was the IT technician level 1. I did some level 2 work there for them too. Also worked for FP Young Solutions, doing some IT work, doing some being the bugger technician. Also worked for C.L.I.C.K Cameron for about 6 years, just doing everything, setting up for early voting elections, setting up iPads, Chromebooks, and doing some PC imaging for CPS public, CPS schools. For hospitals, doing some re-imaging on some hospitals, safety net hospitals, and just like small business. Also, I did it all. So I have a very long IT career and have accumulated a lot of experience to be able to talk about IT, to do IT. I also have my own side business, Singleton Tech Services, where I fix PCs, I build PCs. I can look at tablets, things like that, and I can try to fix it. If I can't fix it, I would tell you my recommendation for the best course of what's next. So if you need a new PC, you can upgrade your PC. If you should build your PC, how much you should spend on building the PC. I do it all with that situation, right? So I print out like a long form of they will know what hard drive they should get, what RAM, how much RAM, the processor, the GPU, all of that, right? So if you're a music producer, a music creator, a content creator, or you just video editing, I definitely build PCs for people like that. I've built a lot of PCs. I want to say so far within my career, built 70 PCs by myself. Just built them. It takes me like a couple of days. The longest it took me was like a week. Just make sure the cabling and everything is all good. But it's something I really enjoy to do. And it's something I can always fall back on for the most part. So let's go next to IT terminology, right? So with IT terminology, pretty much IT terminology is you learning what certain words, certain acronyms mean, right? So, in all my classes that I've taken, well, not all my classes, but the IT beginning class that I take, IT terminology was of vital importance, and you will see why it's vital importance, right? Because you probably heard about CPU, GPU, the LAN, RAM, stuff like that, but do you actually know what those mean? So let's get started, right? So we want you to write these down if you can, or type them in, your notes app if you're on an iPhone, or your doc app if you're on Android, like Google Docs, right? If you're on Android, to write these down because these will be on the final test at the end of the cohort, to see what you learned. So let's get started. So first, it's your CPU, right? Or your central processing unit. Now you may be asking, what is a CPU, right? And that is a video we're going to watch later. But you may be asking, what is a CPU? So a CPU is your processor, right? Or your processor. If, pretty much this right here, right? So your processor is kind of like the brain, quote unquote, of your PC, right? It does a lot of processing the numbers, right? So how CPU or central processing unit works is that this thing reads zeros and ones. That's it. It's reads 0 1s. So when it get the 0 1 information from whatever you're doing, right? So let's say you're playing a video game, or let's say you're playing YouTube. It's going to take all that information that's in 0 1s, break it down to binary, and then put it back out in 0 1s. That's a different binary. So the CPU can process the information, right? So that's how that works, right? With CPUs, processors, you definitely have your pick of the litter, right? You can go something for like Intel, which is this kind of older. So let's go back. So with your CPUs, you have your pick of the litter. So you have your Intel line of processors, right? The i3, the i5, the i7. What that means, i3, i5, and i7 is the cores, the cores. So if you have an i7, you have 7 cores available. So that's what that means. If you have an i5, it's 5 cores. The i3 is 3 cores. You even have some like the Pentium line of processors. These are like dual core, very, very old. They don't even make them no more. The last time they made them was 2023. But this was a very old type of processor. You've seen these in like budget laptops, budget computers. So like the all-in-one computers, yeah, like I said, like the HP laptops that'd be like $100 would use Pentium processors, right? Pretty much these was made for college kids that couldn't spend a lot of money on the laptop that they wanted or on the PCs that they wanted, so they had to set up something like this to do basic things, basic web surfing, um, word processing, like typing in Word or whatever word processing program you use. This is what that was, right? It just did that. It did the very basic things that you needed to do. You're not gonna have a good time with this processor, but you will definitely be able to get around in college if you needed to do some things, like either write papers, do research. You'll be able to do that with this, right? Then you have Intel, also have AMD, right? AMD also have their line of processors the same, like the Ryzen series, right? The Ryzen 5 is one of my favorites. So you have Intel, you have AMD. Remember, Intel have the Intel Core i7, i5, i9, Ryzen 5, no, Ryzen 3, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 9, or 7 and 9. Also with Intel, they have the i9 too. And the 9 just means how many cores it is, right? So you may have so many cores built onto the processor. So you may have 7, may have 5, may have 3, may have 9. And then you have the big boys that's usually are reserved for something like servers, right? We have the Xeon processors, which are huge. They can have so many cores. As you see, the prices are crazy. You can get like cheaper ones, Xeon processors. But these are usually made for servers, right? So the Xeons, and you have, I believe, AMD. I don't think they make the Threadripper anymore, but this is what they're pretty much competitor to the Xeon processors was the Ryzen Threadrippers. As you see, these can cost a lot, all right, 7,000, 3,000, but you can also get like the Ryzen 9 12 core, which is kind of like a lower version, but still good. You can also get like refurbished ones. But these are only in the uses that you would need it. Like I said, like a server, building a server in that instance, these what you would use those for. Anything else would kind of be overkill. So, but that's what CPU is. It's just the processor, right? Your CPU is just your processor. CPU is just really your processor. And it's, multiple. You have two really big brands. You also have ARM. ARM is a type of processor. It's not widely known yet. Their work are kind of like a smaller form factor. So think it's kind of like the M3s, like the M series chips from Apple. So the M1, M2, I think they're on M3 right now, M4. Kind of use like that. It's a smaller form factor that use less energy, but they're very versatile. So you can play video games, you can do web surfing, you can do word processing, all pretty fast for the most part. The arms are really in like phones, tablets, some computers now. You've seen them in, where you've seen them in a lot of not desktop, but laptops. Actually, Windows is developing a version of their operating system or their OS to work on ARM. So that's a plus thing. The hope is eventually that ARM gets to the point where they can replace the x86 architecture. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to live side by side. I do think ARM is going to get there, but I think they're going to live side by side by the x86 architecture. And the x86 architecture is pretty much what all PCs, laptops, even Macs are made on. They all made on x86 for the most part architecture, which allows them to your game to work. So let's say you bought your game on your PC and then you want to play your laptop, it's going to work for the most part. As long as your PC, your laptop can handle it, right? You have the strong enough processor, a strong enough graphics card, it should be able to play it no problem because it's all built on the x86. Also, video game consoles like the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series consoles, right? You got the X and the S and the PS5, even the Switch, they're all built on the x86 architecture. So we'll get into it. Let's get back to our terminology. So you have GPU, which is your graphical processing unit, right? A graphical processing unit or a GPU is a piece of computer hardware that renders graphics on a device. So your graphics card, right? So if you know about PCs, about building PCs, you know about your graphics cards, right? You have now three. You have AMD, you have uh, NVIDIA, right? Team Red, AMD, Team Green, NVIDIA, and now you have Team Blue, Intel. Intel now make graphics card, right? So you know about Intel, that's been around since forever. With the NVIDIA GPUs, you have your pick your litter, right? You have your pick your litter. But for this, we're just going to kind of focus on, um, if you can all give me 1 minute, I would be right back. All right, sorry about that. But yeah, so we're gonna just focus on the gaming, graphics cards. We're not gonna talk about like the rendering graphics card. We're gonna talk about it a little bit, but not right now. But you have your GPUs, your gaming GPUs, not PCs. I'm sorry, your gaming GPUs, right? I think right now they're on like uh the 4 series or the 50 series right now. 50 series right now, they're on 50, 90, 50, 40s. Very nice, powerful, nice graphics card. You have the 40 series and the 30 series. So right now, you're seeing a lot of 30 because 50 just came out. So trying to dump a lot of their inventory. You get a 30, 50, 6 gigabyte with GDR6 uh, RAM memory for $204. You can get the 3060 12 gigabyte with 15 gigabytes of GDDR6 RAM with 400, for $430. Pretty much your graphics card, higher graphics cards is the better looking your video games will look on your PC. So as long as you have a strong enough processor, a lot of RAM, a lot of high frequency, high speed RAM, which we'll get into in a little while. Uh, as long as your graphics card can handle it, it's going to look really good. So a lot of people goes, of course, playing their video games at 4K, 60 FPS or 120 FPS or even more. And certain games can definitely run higher than 120. Rocket League, for example, because it looks great and it's such a low, it's a very efficient game. I've seen 240 FPS, it's frame per second, in there on people counter, and it's real. Even though your eyes can't really tell because your eyes can only see up to a certain amount of FPSs, it makes for a very smooth and enjoyable performance, right? Because the higher the FPS or frames per second, then the better looking the video games will be. But you have, like I said, Team Green or NVIDIA. Then you have the AMD GPUs, uh, which is the Radeon series right now. And I think they just released the 7800. 580 is classic at this point. Uh, been around forever. It's the Radeon RX 900 series right now that everybody's on right now. Really great graphics card. I really do want to get one to build me a new PC, but gotta sell it. But you know, definitely other options just NVIDIA and AMD because now you have Intel in the mix with their GPUs, the ARC series, right? And these are also really good graphics cards. You get the A750, the B580. It's different, variants of them because different manufacturers make them. So you have the Intel series, you have the Titan series, Sparkle, the ASRock, Gunner, so you have different companies making the same graphics card just in different ways. So as you see, like this one, um, probably have like one or two fans. Like this one here have two fans, and then this one have three fans because it probably use a bit more power, so it need to be cooled off. So more fans can cool off. But yes, the ARC series are very new on the scene. Uh, very new on the scene. It's very great to use. like even though it's new and it doesn't have a long history like the AMD or the video graphics card, they're really still good graphics card for a very good price. So if you're looking for like a budget GPU that does a lot of good work, the Intel series is definitely great. But that's what a GPU is, though. It's pretty much your graphics cards, the graphic processing unit. So they usually work hand in hand with your GPU. If you buy a CPU that doesn't have integrated graphics, because you can buy CPUs that have integrated graphics. So think of something like the K series for Intel. So it'd be an i7. So for example, just look it up real quick. You have a Intel i7 K series. So like the 12700K or the 1490K, it's 900K. Pretty much what that means is if you see a K after it, it have integrated graphics. Same thing with Ryzen. It's an X. Not the X. It's I forgot which one. I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now. But those have integrated graphics, right? So if you just buy like a Ryzen 5 and that's it, those won't have integrated graphics. But if you buy like a Ryzen 5 X series, those have integrated graphics. So what that would save you a lot of headache when you're building PCs. Because I have been called by a lot of people who built PCs on their own and they plug everything up and everything comes up, but they see nothing on the screen because they don't have integrated graphics on their processing unit. So they had to go buy a graphics card or go buy a new processor for now until they can save up the money to get a graphics card. Just save yourself time and just remember, for Intel, it need to be the i7, then the numbers, and then K. For Ryzen, it need to be AMD Ryzen 5 whatever, or 7 whatever, and then the X. Also, the K and the X can also be overclocked, and that's something that we'll get into later down the line. I'm sorry, Lonnie. So after that, you have, of course, IT or information technology, development and use of computer systems and networks and storage to manage and retrieve information, right? So pretty much, we are the people that help a lot of places go, right? We are the people that can set up people email addresses for work, make sure that Active Directory is all right, it's not no bad actors and things like that. If we have to retrieve information, we have a knowledge base. That's pretty much what all we do. We do a lot, so it can come from fixing the printer, fixing the laptop, fixing the PC, replacing some things on the PC, maybe placing a whole PC and doing the install setup process. It can be for a lot of things. It just depends on what path that you're taking. You have your LAN or your local area network. A local area network consists of a series of computers linked together to form a network in a relatively contained location, such as a home or office building. So, for example, we have a LAN here where all of our laptops are hooked up to one server. You may use a LAN at home, right? Because you may have a smart TV, and then you may have your phone, and then you may have your printer, and then you may have something like a microwave or a refrigerator or stove all hooked up to your LAN, your local area network, which is then connected to the internet to receive things like updates, or you can watch TV like YouTube or Prime channels or Tubi or Pluto. So that's how that works. Your OS or your operating system connects computer hardware to applications and manage all memory and processes. Some examples include Linux, Mac OS, and Windows Microsoft, which is honestly the three OSs that's out right there. I mean, you have others, but some of those are just deviant variants of other operating systems like the brand or Debian, which is a variant of Linux. But the main two that you probably heard of is Microsoft Windows, right? You heard of Windows 11, and Windows 10, Windows 11, and of course Mac OS with their series of operating system upgrades. Linux is kind of small; it's not as known as those two, but it's definitely used a lot. Switch used to be. No, I don't think switches run on Linux. I think switches run on Android. Android, you can count that too. That is an operating system, but that's mainly using your phone. Yes, I know we have Chromebooks, but that's Chrome OS, which is a variant of Android OS. But Linux is used on like Raspberry Pis, Steam, like the Steam Deck. Those uses Linux. It's very useful. I actually have a Steam Deck at home, and I use it for a lot of things. Of course, playing video games, but you can use it for a lot of things. A lot of cyber deck hacking, very useful with that. But it's just not as known. But it's definitely useful. And if you do want to learn it, if you want to learn it or you do learn it, it's definitely something that you can use in your back pocket because you can use that Linux to force brute force into a lot of things. So definitely Linux. It's dope what you know about Mac OS, right? With your MacBooks and of course OS like iOS for your iPhone. They pretty much both work hand in hand. One of the smoothest operating systems that you can get your hands on. I love Windows and I am on Windows. I use Windows a lot. But to be fair, Windows isn't as smooth as Mac OS. Reason why is because Mac OS it's the same. It's the same on everything, right? It's only one company that make MacBooks. It's only one company that make iPhones. So everything's going to be smooth. Meanwhile, with Windows, they just make their operating system. And yes, Windows do make their Surface laptops, right, which are great. But then you have stuff like Asus, you have Dell, you have Acer, you have HP. You have so many different manufacturers making different laptops that windows have to be scaled all around the board to whatever you use. So, so, um, so, definitely got to do that. It has to be scalable around, so it's not gonna run as smooth as the other as Mac OS because of that situation, right? Because each brand make different uh, versions of laptops. So some may have 16 gigs, some may have 32 gigs, some may have whatever, right? But it had to be scalable. So it's not gonna be as smooth as something like Mac OS. And then you have like RAM, right, which is very important. So your random access memory is a form of computer storage that can be written multiple times. So you may see things on like looking for a laptop or on Amazon or Best Buy, and it may say something like 512 gigabytes of SSD, which is solid state memory, which is fast type of memory that's very fast, right? It moves very fast. Definitely a jump up from the old days where we use HDDs or hard disk drive, which uses mechanical drive that was written very, very slow. Um, so we definitely use something like SSDs, but you also have RAM. So you see, it's like 8 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes. That is your random access memory. What that is used for is to be rewritten multiple times. So let's say you may be like my wife, or you may be like a lot of people that have multiple tabs open on a browser, right? The RAM that you have, like 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes, it will determine how smooth that will still run with all the RAMs on. Because at that point, you're just eating up a lot of RAM. And especially you use something like Chrome, Google Chrome, it's a RAM use because it uses so much so it can look nice, it can run smooth, all of that. So you definitely want to you definitely want to be mindful of your RAM, but it allows for things like your cookies and your cache to be saved on there instead of your hard drive. So instead of having all your cookies and your cache on your hard drive, you have all that saved on your RAM so it can be easily accessible. So let's say, like for me, for example, I go to WrestleZone a lot, with cage side seats a lot. So that would be stored in my RAM. So when I click it, it'll load it up automatically instead of trying to find it and then load it up. Nope, it's right there. It's going to just go to the RAM. It's going to boot it up into your browser, and then you're at your website, right? Or you may go to someone like IGN or even YouTube, right? You go to YouTube, boom, it's going to pull it up right there instead of going into your hard drive trying to find it. But even though it wouldn't be that long, it just makes things a bit more easier. Also, for a lot of programs like FL Studio that we use for the production class, RAM is very important, right? It's going to have a certain amount of RAM allocated for that program so it can process faster, so it can run smooth. Because you don't want to have not enough RAM and then something like FL Studio closed down, or for example, any editing program that you would use, you need a lot of RAM. You need fast moving RAM. And this is where I want to talk about the megahertz of the RAM, right? The standard RAM is, I think, it's 1,333 megahertz of RAM. Very slow moving RAM, but it's still RAM. Everything defaults to that. So you have faster RAM like 3,200, 5,666 megahertz of RAM, fast moving RAM. That just allows for the computer or the processor to go to the RAM, get what it needs, and then pull it out, right? So your CPU sends a signal to the RAM, like, hey, I need this. Do you have it? And then the RAM be like, yes, here you go. Boom. It gets it to the processor. The processor loads it up, boot it up, and it throws into the screen. So all of that works hand in hand. Having faster RAM is very critical for something like media content creating. So if you are doing pictures, if you're doing videos, or even music, having a lot of RAM and the fast RAM is very, very vital. So so definitely look into that. If you're building your PC, that is what RAM stands for. Of course, troubleshooting. I'm going to teach you about troubleshooting in this class. It's the process of identifying problems with a network through a rigorous and repeatable process, and then solving those problems using testable methods. So I work in IT help desk, but I also do a lot of software and hardware fixes. And troubleshooting is the thing that you need to know. It's pretty much like you said, you're going through a lot of repeatable process and testable methods to figure out how to fix it. So you may come across the issue where something may keep on restarting, and it could be a hardware troubleshooting process you have to go through, or it could be something going on where the screen keep coming on and off. It's not so much that it's shutting down; it's just going on and off. So you have to go through a troubleshooting process to figure out if it's a bad driver, do it need to be updated, do it need to be removed, if the GPU going bad. These are all things that I'm going to teach you on how to troubleshoot. Like, how do you troubleshoot, and how do you to apply that into your future career? You know, of course, you have your VPN, which is your virtual private network. It's an extension of a private network with public resources using dedicated hardware and software to create extension and secure transmit data. Pretty much, it allows you to block your IP. Your IP address is something that we're going to get into, but it blocks your IP address, your internet protocol address. That's what IP stands for, internet protocol. But it blocks, it masks it, and it gives you another IP from the VPN, so you can be able to, go on the internet and not worry about being hacked. Um, Something I definitely recommend for you to have, especially if you use a lot of public Wi-Fi, like schools or restaurants or whatever. Definitely use your VPN to protect yourself. But it just blocks you from being found out. It encrypts your data. Some can encrypt your data, but it definitely just masks your IP, so you can be able to be on the internet freely, use its service overseas, and comes back to you pretty fast, really fast. It just allows your information to be protected, because they may think that your IP address is based in the United States, and then find out that your IP address is being masked, and the IP address they see is based in somewhere like Ukraine or Brazil or something like that. And then you have your WAN, or your wide area network. It's a large network of information and data that is not tied to a single location. Spoofing is when cyber criminals use deception to appear as another person or source of information. That's really bad. And this is something that's been constantly going on since the invention of the internet. You probably heard of a lot of old people that have been do spoofing attacks, probably some like a light bill in their email address, thinking it's real and it's not. And they put their information in, their credit card numbers, and then the website just goes away. And now the information is stolen, their money is gone. That's definitely a real thing. Social engineering is the method of gaining trust of a user, that the attacker can acquire sensitive information that can be used to access data. One of my favorite things that I have been learning across over the years. But pretty much it goes like this. Let's say social engineering works like this. So let's say I want to get information from this one company, right? And I just want to know how the security there is, and if I can get some information. So I call, like, I've been hired. Like, hey, I just got hired. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm coming in Monday, but also just want to get some information ahead of time from you. What is over there? Like what's over there to eat? Like, what restaurants over there to eat on lunch? Because I like to eat. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then whoever's on the phone, not knowing that I ain't been hired. I'm just some random person trying to get some information. They tell me. I go to that restaurant. I have like a built scanner so I can scan their security card or whatever. I get the information. I go home, make a fake security card. Now I can go into their building and I can do whatever I want to do. Right? I can go into their building. I can log onto their PC and I can get whatever information I need to get, and I can walk right out. Right? Lunchtime. Oh, it's lunchtime. Go right home. Right? That's social engineering. It's for you to get information, some sensitive information out of someone that can be used to access that, right? So that's it's like an example. Something that I also want to teach a lot of kids because I feel like social engineering is being used on a lot of kids today. But neither here or there, we'll talk about that later. Phishing is something else that a lot of hackers use. Is they use email address, phones, or text to get someone to provide sensitive information, just like the spoofing. That goes hands in hand with spoofing. So phishing, same thing. You may see a fake form. It may be from like you think it's from the government, which let me be clear, never happens, right? They go through another website like Social Security. We have SSA.gov that they will send the forms to and not your email address. So be careful of that. Uh, Everything you read in your email addresses is not real. Look at the email address. You know, like you will know something from ComEd because the email address would be from like no reply at ComEd dot whatever, right? Uh, um, yeah. So, um, right, government agencies will never send email addresses, emails to your personal email address. Like I said, I always go to a second or third party before you get it. Um, just be careful. Like I said, look at email addresses. Like look at the spelling of certain words. It may be a misspell. You may have a real email address from someone. So like, we're going to use comment, for example. A lot of these stuff have like no reply at comment.com. Um, Sometimes you can tell it's fake when it don't say no reply. It'll say something else like you replied to them. The minute you don't see no reply, it's probably going to be fake unless it's like a higher up. But even then, you would definitely know because you would be on the phone with them. You can call, comment the 1-800 number and get in contact with them and get that email address, right? So just be careful with that. Um, that's phishing, though. A lot of people falls to phishing attacks. It's very common, but these are just some tips that you should learn. A network administrator is the IT pro that supports an organization internal service by installing, maintaining, and monitoring systems. That's what I am for Click Services. I'm the IT admin, but I also am the network admin. I make sure that our server is running good, that it's updated, that security is good on it, that the the laptops are receiving their scripts so they can update in the background when you all on your laptops playing the game. Make sure that the script is working in the background so you can download the Windows updates. Haven't gotten a couple of things working with the script, but mostly everything is working. So that's a plus. The IT project manager is someone who sets the timeline for technical projects, keep the team on task and on budget. And then, of course, the IT support specialist or the help desk technicians are the individuals responsible for analyzing, troubleshooting, and evaluating technology issues on both of those things. More so IT support specialists, or help desk technicians. Um, they do it all. They're level one support, so they handle a lot of the minimal tasks, sometimes bigger tasks. Sometimes you have to install a new PC. Sometimes you have to upgrade a PC. Sometimes you have to install programs. You got to reinstall programs. You got to update drivers, fix printers. If you can fix printers, you want to fix printers, copiers, Wi-Fi. Sometimes people Wi-Fi cards be down. Um, may have to do something as simple as placing an HDMI cord or a power cord. You're very level one. Level two would be more so like working on servers, bigger projects. Making sure everything is updating on a network. The security is going well. That's more so level two. Level three is kind of even higher than that. That's when you get into like really big cloud security, 2FA, things of that nature. At that point, you'd be an IT engineer. But yeah, but that is just some of the terminology that I want you all to learn. We're going to go over terminology probably next week also with some more words, but right now I just wanted to play these. So let's get back to the PowerPoint real quick. Let's get back to the PowerPoint. So right now, I'm going to play this video about what is IT, and then that will be the end of the PowerPoint, and we're going to wrap up. So let's go ahead and do that now.
Living in a world where humans rely on inanimate objects. A combination of metal, rubber parts, and fuel can help you get from one place to a distant place without breaking a sweat. Pieces of plastic and metal put together the right way can make you communicate with someone who's miles away from you. And most importantly, information and data can now be stored and retrieved later on. And the world is in need of people who understand how this information and technology works. So what exactly is information technology? First and foremost, it must be understood that this is a very broad topic. But information technology is the use of computer systems, storages, networks and tangible devices, technological infrastructure, systems and processes to create, modify, transfer, store, multiply, and exchange all forms of electronic data. So what exactly is data? Data is every type of information from facts, statistics, numerical sequences, and patterns, which is analyzed, studied, compared, modified, stored, and overall used as a component in the overall information that the technology user needs. The value of information technology is that although people are capable of handling data using our brains, and even the old paper and pen processes, these processes are not as reliable, efficient, and effective as relying on information technology. A computer can process millions of pieces of data at a given time. Its storage or memory can hold and secure information without forgetting a single piece of data. So where is information technology applicable? From the general information above, information technology plays a significant role in business. Some examples of this would be customer handling, all the way from handling customer service, personal day-to-day communication, storing financial records, and all other human activities that deal with handling electronic data. Information technology is essential to the day-to-day operations of a business, and even more important when it comes to scaling your business to make more money. And this is why learning the skills of information technology is incredibly valuable whether you want to get a job or start your own business. Next, let's talk about hardware versus software. Before we can discuss examples of information technology, it's important that we talk about hardware and software. Hardware is tangible technology that you can actually touch when it comes to dealing with information technology, from personal computers, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, and everything else that is physical and is used for the purposes of IT. Software, on the other hand, is intangible, aka you can't touch it. So this would be things such as websites, computer programs, or systems and applications. And it's going to be broadly separated into two different groups, which is software systems and applications. Software systems are basic programs that are tasked to perform computer functions at its most basic level. An example of this would be an operating system for a phone, such as iOS or Android. Applications, on the other hand, also have a lot of examples, such as databases, email servers, transaction processing systems, process control systems, enterprise collaboration systems, and many more. Some examples of this would be Slack, Dropbox, HubSpot, Google Drive, and Microsoft Office. Next, let's talk about information technology as a career path. Information technology is very broad, but it is a great career path. If you are able to learn the skills of information technology with the constant rise of technology in this modernized world, it is safe to say that you will almost definitely have a job. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median annual wage for computer and information technology occupations is $97,000. That's over twice the median annual wage for all other applications, which is $45,000. And according to Glassdoor.com, an entry-level position as an IT help desk technician makes over $50,000 a year. So not only does information technology offer you a good salary, but being in IT keeps you updated with the latest in technology innovation. A few examples of fields related to information technology are IT management, computer systems analyst, web development, cybersecurity, cloud administration, and database administration. If you want to learn a way to get into information technology in a few months, click the free training, which I will put down in the description, as well as the pinned comment below. This free training is offered by a company called Course Careers, which I've mentioned before, which routinely gets people jobs in as little as 2 weeks, and oftentimes in a few months. For instance, check out an interview I did with Della, where she was able to get a job at her dream company, making over $100,000 a year in a month and a half. And she was able to do this with zero experience beforehand in the career field.
So there you go. Just a real quick video about what's IT in the field. As you see, it's definitely a lot. It's a really wide and very field experience. Like I said, you can do IT help desk, but you can do like something like coding. which is still IT. You can do something like learning sequels, which is like data analysts and everything. That's still IT. Like I said, hardware, software, IT help desk, which is what I do. You can be a network engineer, a security engineer, right? A network security engineer. The IT field is endless, right? You can also get into something like developing video games, right? You can be a video game developer. You need to learn coding for that, which is still IT. So as you see, the field is wide and varied, and you will be getting paid very well for it, right? Even as an entry level, you may be making someone like 45 to 50,000 a year, 45,000 to 50,000 a year. It's just very, very wide. And I just hope that the goal of this class is to get you interested in IT and to also just have some skills so you can have something to fall back on. So when you want to enter the field, you know some things. So when you go to IT, go to school for IT, go to school for network security, or to go to school for just becoming like an IT help desk, you know what you're talking about, right? You know what field you want to enter in, right? So that is supposed to be the end of our lecture tonight. It's about that time. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, I can share this. Hold on 1 second. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can reach me at aramis.singleton. I'm sorry. There we go. You reach me at aramis.singleton at clickservices.nsp.org. And you can also check out our website, Click Services. So please share that. Share it to your parents. They can get all the information for our classes on there, the calendar as well, and also the donation button where they can share that with your friends and family. But if you have any questions, you can reach me at this email address right here. And if you're in class, you can pull me over to the side before or after class, and I will help you out the best I can. Next week will be terminology part 2 and some troubleshooting. We'll try to get to some troubleshooting lessons next week also, like what's the telltale sign if it's a power issue, telltale signs if it's a hardware issue, and what are the telltale signs if it's a software issue, and how do we get to these answers. That will be next week, but definitely terminology part 2 is definitely going to be on that list. So until then, I will see you all Friday for the streaming class. And if you have any questions, like I said, just email me here and I will get back to you as soon as you can. But until then, you guys have a great night, and I will see you all next Friday for the streaming class, and then next Monday for the IT class. But until then, you all take care.